All right, folks, this week's episode is a big one. We had Ryan Villopoto in the booth. He's one of the greatest motocross and supercross racers of all time. We talk about that in the show, as well as him being new to being a mini Moto Dad. Both of his sons race, and they will not take his advice, even though he's a 9-time champion, which is absolutely hilarious. I think you guys are going to love this chat. We learned a lot about the life of a motocross legend in this one, and Ryan's so well-spoken, so eloquent. It was a real pleasure. But before we get into the show, I just want to say thank you to all the sponsors that came on board to make this happen and our Patreon members. Big shout out to Woodward, Pub Beer, Arbor, Yeti, Herschel, Bubs Naturals, Goodr, and Lucy. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. And lastly, if you want to support the show in a major way, most of the people that tune into this are not subscribed. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or watching on YouTube, do us a huge favor and subscribe. And that helps us out a ton. Let's get into the show. Here we go. The Ryan Villopoto episode.
You are listening to the
Hey, MFM. See you on the lips. Attack, dude.
Bon voyage!
Get that damn car off of the hill.
Slide down them big hills. You know what I mean? On the big, nice burgundy snowboard.
All right, welcome to The Bomb Hole, which is presented by the best company on planet Earth, Run Through a Wall. To my right, co-hosting, we got Knox in studio, marketing juggernaut. You may know him from Vans Forum and Burton. He's been in the snowboard industry. He's done a lot of big things. How we feeling, Knox?
Feeling good, man. Thanks for having me here.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for orchestrating this whole thing. We got Silk D on production as usual.
Yep, what up? Happy to be here. Very excited.
Love it. And we got the man of the hour, Ryan Villopoto, the Bomb Hole studio. What's happening, Ryan?
How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be chatting with a moto legend like yourself.
Yeah, we're here, and we just flew in. Me and Knox, the family flew in. We dropped them off at the hotel and grabbed a quick bite to eat for lunch, and just checking out Salt Lake City.
Yeah, what are we doing out here?
Actually, we're here for Supercross. My kid's gonna ride the KGSC tomorrow night, but we're here with you, hanging out, and go get some beers later.
Love it. I want to talk about being a moto dad for a little bit here. How is it that the tables have turned now?
It's completely flipped. It's so I've obviously been in it for my entire life. Started riding dirt bikes around 4, racing seriously around I think 10. Around 99 is when I think my first amateur national was. So I've kind of seen all angles and all facets of it. And now being, I have twin boys, they both race. And now I'm doing it all over again. Now I understand why my dad was so fucking pissed when I either didn't perform or was a dick. Cause dude, it's and we just started, by the way, we're into this amateur, full-time scene, 6-7-ish months. So, I'm really getting, up to speed as quick as possible, but dude, it's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah, I got to ask too. Now that you're also a mechanic now too. So are we doing tire changes? Are we doing the whole deal?
So I'm lucky enough to be in my position to where I have an ex-factory mechanic. Recently was with Chase last year. So good buddy of ours. So he helps me out. But as for I'm washing bikes, cleaning filters, things like that. I'm not doing top ends. Not yet. Not for me. So that's why I have Kyle. But yes, it's full time, especially with the two of them going at the same time. Even when we're at the track, it's checking this bike over, and he's like, hey, "Can I go out ride? I got to put fuel on your bike and this and that." And it's just it's a gong show.
All right, we got a guest question from Vicky Golden about this subject. Here we go.
Hey guys, Vicky Golden here. Obviously a huge fan of the Bomb Hole podcast. I've got a question for RV. We all know every kid never listens to their parents, even if they're 100% right. Do you think there's going to be a time in your kid's riding career where you're going to have to spend the money you earned winning Supercross and Motocross championships to pay a trainer that's slower than you to teach your kids how to ride?
Well, Vicky, it's already in the process. We already kind of do that. It's bizarre, man. I have two. Each of them are completely different mentalities, builds, the way they think. Everything's so different. So I have one that's pretty quiet. Well, I shouldn't say quiet, but when it comes to the motorcycle, he just listens. I don't really get on him very much at all because his mentality. Now the other one is like he's got a thick skull, and I have to chew his ass. I have to get on him, and he wants to argue and says, "Oh, I am doing that." I said, "Dude, I just watched you not do it for fucking 10 minutes. You tell me you did it." So I'm already doing that. Yeah, I literally am already doing that. And my dad had to do the same thing with me. You know, he hired a riding coach back in the day. Still out there in the game now. Jay Whipple is his name. He hired him to basically so my dad could tell Jay what he wanted me to do, and then Jay would tell me what to do, but it actually came from my dad.
That's incredible. Is there ever moments where you're like, hey, I was a champion. I know what I'm talking about.
Dude, all the time. I'm like, do you think I just pulled this shit out of my ass? Like literally. And I have to tell him like, that's once a week. That's once a week. Like, I was like, I know you guys never saw me race professional, like, current professionally racing, but it's all over YouTube. How do you think I got on YouTube? I'm a YouTube star from what I did. I'm not a YouTuber. And there's thousands of hours on there. Like, how do you think you make it on there?
It's incredible. We got a follow-up question on this subject from Jace from Gypsy Tales. Here we go.
Hi, Ryan. It's Jace from Gypsy Tales. Just interested in understanding your thoughts around the current rules for red flags in 50 races and what you'd do to change these rules to make it better on all participants. Thanks for the time, mate. Enjoy the show.
So I was with Jace, it must have been 3, 4, 5 days ago. We were in Tallahassee for 2026 Yamaha intro photo shoot and stuff like that. So I'd flown out there. Jace was there. Actually didn't know he was going to be there. So was there, and then we ended up going to Outback Steakhouse, and we're rapping, we're hanging out, we're having some beers, and we start talking, and then something came up about amateur racing and this and that, and I said, yeah, oh fuck, we raced Sunday. Well, I was pulled into Glen Helen Thursday, Friday practice, Saturday, Sunday race, parked the rig Sunday night, and then got on a plane and flew to Tallahassee Monday morning. So all of that, I was smoked. Get there, then I start telling the story of like, yes, we had a mud race at Glen Helen. They pulled the red flag with 1 lap to go. I got super fucking heated. So mini dad, yes, in me is starting to come out. My wife's like, dude, you're gonna get thrown out of here, and also you're an asshole when you're like this. Like, you need to calm down. And I'm like, sorry, maybe it's just because I've been around the sport for 30 odd years. Like, a little common sense would be nice. So, yes, I don't even know what the rule is with the red flag. Obviously, I know what the rule is. Just red flag, restart the race. But we were on 50s, pretty decent mud race at Glen Helen. It's just really hard on the bikes, and I lost my shit. So that's the story.
Thanks for clarifying. That's fantastic. I got a question. What do you saying to your kids on the gate?
Clearly, well, I've been told I talk too much, actually, by my one, Gage. He goes, I said, we were at Mesquite, Nevada for World Mini, and he wasn't riding great. So I put him up in the top bunk. Him and Brax, they share a big top bunk in the rig. And I'm like, hey man, how do you think? What could we work on tomorrow? You pick one thing. You guys want to work on, and let's work on it. And they spout off some shit and whatever else. And then I said, well, what? How could I be better? Like we have to work as a team to do this. And Gage goes, well, dude, he goes, Dad, you just talk way too much on the line. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to say? He goes, just say like 3 things, not 50. well, I'm like, I've got to get it in to tell you what not to do and to do. You know, we're sitting on the line, and you know, I get amped up. Obviously, like we're on the line. I'm a racer. Like we're racers through and through. So like I'm getting fired up, and I'm like, okay, do this, don't do that. Watch that kicker, watch that rut. Go there, do this. And he's like, I have no idea what to do. Obviously, that's what's going through his head. You're just fucking talking diarrhea out your mouth.
Yeah, that's facts. I'm so curious about this. Okay, so as a mediocre recreational dirt bike racer, mediocre might be an overstatement, but at any rate, like when I roll my bike into the gate, like for people snowboarders that are listening, I just want to provide a little bit of context. Like racing motocross is fucking insane. Okay, like the gate goes down. It's a full drag race. There's people flying all over the place. The bikes are 2 inches from each other. It's like full madness, right? But you're sitting there for 30 minutes. Then you got to roll your bike into the gate. And then you're finally on the gate after sitting there for 45 minutes. And for somebody like yourself, right, where you're racing for a championship, you're racing for a title, you got big sponsors, you got all this pressure. It's serious. And you're racing like the best racers in the world. And they're all trying to win. And you're trying to fucking be the top dog, and you roll your bike into the gate. That when that 2-minute board goes up and you're like, all right, shit's about to get real. This is about to get really intense. Did you have a routine from when that 2-minute board went up?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like a full routine, right? You know, you have your mechanic with you. You obviously pick your gate, like you said, and once you kind of roll into it, like, I mean, you're just sitting there idling, meaning idling, just sitting on your bike. Your heart rate's running at like 135, 140, just sitting on the bike. So you can just imagine like, and it's what's so different with our sport, and I think compared to any sport, like I always look at, you know, call it surfing, snowboarding, like that style of action sports, like where it's super high level, but it's only super high level, and correct me if I'm wrong, like once you're sitting kind of in the box. Everybody else is then like boys when they're down at the lodge or, you know, hanging out hotel, wherever you guys are call it hanging. Where for us, we're isolation from like the morning we walk into the stadium, like to the truck. It's just like, it's full like game time. So like from a routine standpoint, when I would go down to the line, like, you know, like I know for me, I never like played the track over in my head. I mean, I knew it already, but like basically just thinking about executing the start, because that's the most important thing for us. You know, that can make or break your race, being the fastest guy or not, or whatnot. Even not being the fastest guy, if you get the whole shot, like you're putting yourself in a fucking amazing position. And then if you are a top guy, putting yourself that's literally 80% of your work is almost out of the way. You know, and then that last 20 is just finishing the run or finishing the race, you know? So, for me, I'd drop into my gate and just try to, you know, focus on basically the job at hand was right in front of me. It's weird because when you ask that, honestly, like you almost go, blank in you know, your mind could just, you're thinking, but it's almost like blank. Like if you ask me, what were you thinking about on the line? I have no idea. You know, I guess it'd probably be like lining up at the Olympics versus like X Games, right? Like that level of commitment and execution that has to be had to win gold or silver or bronze. You know, like that's what the top guys do. And it's like, if you asked them, what were you thinking? It's like, I have no fucking, like really, like I have no idea. Like there is thoughts, but like, but as for a routine, you know, getting a new painted helmet, you know, I don't drop it, anything like that. I don't have any weird quirks when it like put my left boot on first versus my right. I didn't have anything like that. No.
You weren't doing like any crazy breathing or like all the guys tugging on their balls on the beat. Now I see that.
Yeah, you're always trying to get comfortable. Yeah. But you know, it just depends. It depends on what cut pant I'm wearing that day.
Yeah, true.
Is it tight in the ball area or is it not?
Were you nervous? Like, did you get
always
scared? Okay.
Always. Yeah. Like always. And I think a part of the nervousness or the worry would come from, obviously, I think I was a little different than some other athletes or other racers, where I took, when I lost, I felt like, you know, like the whole team lost. I had a lot of that weight on my shoulders, where there's other riders that are like, you know, the team's just an asset, you know, and it's like, you know, I stayed with one manufacturer my whole career. So I had a lot of loyalty there, and I'm still buddies with everybody that's currently still at Kawasaki, just because I was there for so long. But yeah, it's an interesting sport, that's for sure.
What about now when you roll in for a vet national? Are you nervous on the line, or are you just like, I'm having a good time?
No, I'm not. I don't get like the butterflies anymore. Like when you line up for a Supercross, it's partly, making sure that you execute makes you nervous, right? Because it's so high level, and then also just the call it the injury factor, and a lot of that. Like I said, 80% of that's getting it through the first turn, because like you said, there's 22 guys on the line for us in Supercross, and there's 42 outdoors. So you can imagine, we'll use Glen Helen. Have you ever rode Glen Helen before? Okay, so Talladega, the start straight. Well, that's an abnormal start straight at Glen Helen, but that start straight. You come into the first turn from the gate. I bet we come into that first turn doing way over 70 miles an hour with 42 bikes coming into it at the same time. So you go down, it's just a stampede of horses behind you, right? So that's kind of a factor that makes you nervous. And I think that I've heard guys say this, if you're not nervous, then it's time to hang it up type theory or thought process. But now when I line up, it's like basically just don't crash, don't get hurt. But the racer always takes over. Some guys will be like, oh, just take it easy. But I just happen to be really good at Glen Helen. I grew up riding there. So if I want to go race, I'm 36 now and I don't ride a ton. I can get my jam on at Glen Helen, but ruddy conditions, East Coast style or whatever, different tracks. I'm not, I'm still good obviously, but not like I'm good at Glen Helen.
Glen Helen, you said you used to crush it there. Give me a story. I don't know what year it was, but maybe first, second year on a 450, you crushed it, and then you were done rest of the year.
Yeah.
Like ACL, what happened?
Yeah, ACL. Yeah. So,
but what's the real story?
The real story. Yeah. So I was, I must have been 19 or 20 at that time. So I had done 3 years prior to that in the 250 class with Mitch Payton, and then moved up to the 450 class. I had raced Supercross that year, did okay. Put it this way, I wasn't in top physical peak condition at that current time. I was I was 19, 20 and didn't think I needed to really do a ton. I rode a lot, obviously, and I did train, but it wasn't to what I needed to be. So Glen Helen rolls around. We make it through Supercross. Glen Helen rolls around, and I knew I had a good shot at winning that outdoor championship. And once again, I'm good at Glen Helen. So got 2 shit starts on the day. I think I came from further than 20 seconds back and went 1-1. So we get back to the house. What was it? It would have been Saturday night. Well, we had a lot of fun. Got pretty wild Saturday night, and then me and my uncle were wrestling. I remember this. We were wrestling. Kind of remember this. We were wrestling. We somehow ended up in the spare bedroom. I don't know if I was chasing him. He was chasing me. We ended up in the spare bedroom and fucking wrestling around on the ground. Well, from what I remember, I believe he rolled over, when we were on the ground, rolled over on my knee. I already didn't have an ACL at the time. I hadn't had one since I was 14. And then he rolled over on it, and it just fucking popped the thing out. And then and I've popped it out a ton of times prior to this. So after I woke up in the next morning, right, hungover, and I'm like, dude, this isn't right. Something's fucked up with it. Because it like I said, I'd rode with it, raced with it since I was 14 years old. So, and I popped it out. It would never pop out and stay out. It would always go back in. But this one was different. Something happened. We finished it Saturday night. We finished it off. So definitely a bummer. That was $1 million lost if I would have won the championship. So I just had went 1-1, day before. So I roll out and we're supposed to go testing on. Yeah.
So that was $1 million party you had.
That was a $1 million
party.
That was $1 million party in my backyard. So we were supposed to go testing, I think, on Monday or Tuesday with the team out at Paula. So we roll out to Paula. I didn't say anything. Put my shit on, everything's normal. Go out. I think I spun maybe 2 or 3 laps. and came in and basically what I said was I fucking stubbed. I put my foot down and fucking tweaked my knee. I got to go get an MRI. And then I got it fixed like 3 days later.
God. Wow. However many years later, we get the truth.
So yeah, that was, you're just young, dumb.
What's your uncle's name?
Dave.
Uncle Dave. Shout out to Uncle Dave.
Uncle
Cost you
Dave.
$1 million.
Yeah, dude. It was, but yeah, young, dumb, and all par for all of those things. If those things wouldn't have happened, if I would have went out and won outdoor championship, not that I wouldn't have gotten more serious, but like I struggled that year from a fitness perspective, not from a riding or necessarily a speed perspective, but from a fitness perspective, and I had to make some serious changes. That didn't come though till my serious change didn't come till I think end of 2010. So
With Aldon?
With Aldon, yeah.
I want to get into that later, but I think it would be cool to run it back to Paulsbo, Washington, and how you found motocross. Well, so I'm third generation. My kids are fourth generation. And so my grandpa is still alive today, Fred, New Jersey based, was born, raised in Jersey, always racing something. Motorcycles, or back then it would probably have been more like TT style. They didn't have real dirt bikes, and fucking street racing and shit like that in Jersey. Packed up, moved. Well, he had 4 kids, so they all packed up, moved. I think they landed in Tucson, Arizona is where it was. And then that's when he, obviously going from East Coast to kind of West Coast-ish, desert, right? Like you can ride anywhere, especially back then. So he had 2 motors over the course of living in Arizona. I think it might have been 10 years just time frame. He had 2 motorcycle shops while, and my dad raced. So, obviously, and then Northern California, then they fucking went to Alaska, and then on their way to Alaska, they stopped in Paulsbo or that area where I grew up, and it's like, fuck you guys, we're not going to Alaska. We're going to stay right here. Basically, is kind of the story, right? So then my uncle and grandpa went up and did the Alaska thing for a while, but we stayed down, and eventually everybody ended back up in Paulsbo. Cool. So, there's a Washington boy that goes by the name of Jamie Lynn, who's a legendary pro snowboarder, and he has a guest question for you. Here you go.
Hello, everyone. This is Jamie Lynn. Ryan, this is my question for you. Growing up in the Northwest and in Washington in particular, where we always had to deal with rain and seasonal weather, what resources did you tap into to develop your skills on a dirt bike? When other riders that came from warmer, drier climates seemed like they had an advantage, you were able to not only overcome those disadvantages, but become a rider and racer of the highest caliber. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Yeah, so no, it was tough. Being from, that Paulsbo area, west of Seattle, like everybody knows it pretty much. It rains more than the sun's out. So, it was my dad, drove. We were on the road a lot. So we had a track up in Port Angeles, Washington. That at the time, now I think they have some better roads options to get up there, more 2 lanes. It was 1 lane. It took us like almost 2 hours to get there. And then we had another really good track over in Monroe, Washington. But that was getting on the ferry. So that was like a 2.5 hour run. And winter time, to his point, is really no riding. Other than we would go back to Monroe, and we had a horse arena over there that would build a like arena cross track. So for me, that was the tough part, right? Like, and I shouldn't say for me, I was a kid. That was the tough part, and I'm dealing with it now with my kids being, living in Newport Beach and having to drive 2 hours to the track. Every Tuesday night when we go to Paris Mini Night. I pull them out or get them out of school at 3:10. Well, it takes me 2 hours to get to the track. So from that standpoint, like that's a ton of work, because it's like you get out, we get to go ride. Like I said, it's a night program. So I don't get home till 9, and it's like wake up, wash bikes and things like that. So that's, I think, the hardest aspect of being kind of isolated or being in that area, very similar to where we're at now, because Southern California tracks are I think Southern California in general is kind of in trouble with tracks. We used to be the mecca of supercross and motocross, and still a lot of the manufacturers are there. But when it comes to quality of riding and the amount of tracks that from what we used to have when I was a kid, it's nowhere near that. So what my dad would do is we would jump in the motorhome and trailer, and we would drive south, and we'd get a week to 2 weeks or whatever it was. And we would drive down, bang out as many days in a row as we could, and ride in Southern California, and then go home. So yeah, it's like I said, I give all the dads and moms massive props in this sport that do it, from the financial side of it. Like, that's where I'm very, very lucky being in my position. Like, I don't have any financial burden. But but the time, time is everything, and you can't make more time. So it's like the driving, the bike work, the chasing these races, trying to get them to develop when that the kids are on the East Coast, they're homeschooled at 8 years old already. They have training facilities and these things like that, which I'm not saying is maybe right at 8 years old, because it's a lot. That's a lot of, it's almost like it's too early, right? Like I see us eventually, hopefully doing something like that in the future, but not till like 12 or 13, 14. Like, I'm trying to figure out something for myself right now that I could have like this backyard or home style like track where they could still go to school, have like that normal kind of like upbringing until it's time to homeschool. Not just homeschooling because it's okay. Well, if we're going to race dirt bikes at a high level at 8 years old, you have to be homeschooled because of a time perspective. I want them to be homeschooled when they're ready, not based off of, trying to,
Yeah. I mean, it's just like any sport, right? Like snowboarding, skiing, you live by the mountains.
Yep.
And skateboarding, surfing, same thing. I will say it was pretty funny. Yesterday I show up to his house. He's out there washing bikes. Like he's and I'm like, hey man, how's it going? He's like, just washing bikes, going to break in some motors tonight. Like that's what he does. But it's really cool for me to see his passion for his kids, and willing to do that. And it's interesting. But I'm sure, like you said, massive respect, because now he's in it. Mm-hmm. He was the guy that didn't wash the bike. He rode it. Now he's washing them.
Yeah, it comes full circle for sure. It definitely comes full circle, and you'll be at the top of the mountain at one stage, and now you're down at the bottom of it. So, but it is a ton of fun. Like I look at it, I look back and like I tell people this, like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree from the perspective of like I'm just kind of like my dad. So like yes, I improved. I think I've improved in a lot of areas compared to how he was on me or how hard he was on me. But then there's other areas that I look back now at 36 and I'm like, well, no wonder why he was like that, right? Like it puts it into total perspective.
Yep. Yeah. I want to go back to your amateur racing career, because you battled Alessi, right?
Whole career.
He was the whole career, but as an amateur, he was the guy, right?
Yeah, my whole amateur career, he was like the phenom that basically everybody was watching and kind of waiting, to see what was going to happen when he did turn pro. He basically won, more amateur championships than probably most that run around today and that will ever.
But I think, thinking about that lesson there is you see the kids that come up and win everything, and then they get on a big bike and it seems like, they have a hard time losing. And it seems like that lesson probably helped a lot earlier, having an adversary, right?
I think so. And I think also too, like I'm dealing with a little bit of that, like, nice product, nice stuff, badass rig. And I feel like I'm making them soft because we have all the nicest shit. But I also have to hold them accountable to make sure that's like, hey, that's my rig, not yours. That's my Renegade, and we have nice bikes, but it's because we prep them properly and try to stay up on all that stuff. But I think for me, I didn't win a lot early, just like my kids aren't winning now. So I think if you start like there's always those phenoms that win and become the great, that can become great at racing. But then there's also a lot of them that I use the term to somebody the other day. It's like they pop their cherry too early. As winning everything and kind of got used to that. And then, like once you do turn pro, like maybe you aren't, if you're not the in the total spotlight. Maybe you're a 8th place guy or a 10th place guy, and you're kind of battling for that. That's hard to go from the winningest amateur rider to now be 10th. Where I came up and I was like, I started out, I'll use just to say 10th through 15th, and then I was inside the top 10, and it took years, right? And then by the end of my amateur career, I had a couple championships to my name, but then once I turned pro, it was still new and like fresh for me. It was like I hadn't won everything.
It peaked at the right time.
Yeah, peaking at the right time I think is huge. Especially when you do any one of these sports, action sports, at such a high level at a young age.
Cool. And then, so at 17 is when you were on 250, and that's when you turned pro and started racing?
Yeah, I just turned 17, and I went to the last 3 nationals in 17. So,
and were you in school, or were you homeschooled at that point?
I was homeschooled prior to that, if you call it that.
Yeah. Do you have a degree?
I do not.
Nice.
I do not.
Nice. Worked out well for you, though.
It did.
So how did the first race on the big bike go?
I think it was tough. It was at Broome Tioga, really technically, pretty technical track. I didn't get great starts. I think I went 14, 16. I don't know what I ended up overall, but per moto 14, 16. And the week right after that, we went to Steel City, and I think I was 5.6 or 4.5 or something. So made a drastic improvement, and then went to Glen Helen and went 2.2. So, that kind of like solidified, like, I guess, my seat in that class, I feel like, Glen Helen, like I said, especially at the national, even on Thursdays, it's a unique place to ride, and most guys don't like to ride it. So like, I enjoyed it. It's probably one of my favorite places to race, especially in national. And when I came out, went 2.2. Langston went, I think Grant went 1.1 that day. I went 2.2. And that kind of just started the trajectory of my 250 career.
What was it like going from amateur and then you go to pro circuit with Mitch Payton?
Yeah, it was being in my position, like, and things have changed a lot inside the sport. So like the evolution of our sport is filtered down into amateur racing. So when I was racing amateurs on I'll call it 250, it was a 250 amateur spec bike. And then after Loretta's was over, we went out to Glen Helen, rode the race bike, call it the race bike, from PC. And it was such a difference, like way more horsepower, way better brakes, handled way better. We had factory tires now. Like it was dramatically different, so I think that really helped me because I had good product. I said this in a video the other day, like I had good product. My dad always made sure my bikes were good, prepped well, but they weren't the fastest bikes out there. And I think that also helped me as an amateur, not that I knew, but like, it made me try harder. So once I got the best equipment, then it was like, holy shit, now I'm like I'm just better than you in general now because I have equal equipment or better. So that made a huge difference going from the amateur bike to the factory bike.
All right, we're going to talk about Arbor. I like what Arbor's got going on these days. They're doing big things. So Arbor has been making high-performance snowboards for nearly 30 years with a little thing called craftsmanship, and they do it with a conscience. These guys were on the sustainability tip long before it was cool, using real wood top sheets, eco-friendly materials, and giving a damn about the mountains and the planet. They're backed by one of the sickest teams out there. We're talking Jared Elston, a.k.a. Big Air Jer, Mary Francois, Red Gerard, who just won an X Games gold, Brian Iguchi, Danny Cass, and many others. Arbor Snowboarding is resetting the standard, blending high performance and sustainability with precision, power, and purpose. So whether you're straight lining like a psycho or going full dummy in the park, Arbor's got A-grade boards and bindings that you need to ride your best. So check out Arbor. They got a lot of cool stuff going on. All right, the folks over at Yeti made another great product. We're talking about the Hopper M20 soft backpack cooler. Now, this thing is a cooler that looks like a backpack. It's got shoulder straps, and your hands free with this bad Larry. You can go anywhere. And it's summer coming up, warm weather. You know what's nice on a warm day is an ice cold beverage, maybe a sandwich. So you can load this thing up with all your drinks, all your food, chuck some ice in there, and then it's got a magnetic seal at the top. So you can seal in all that cold air, load it up full of beers, and you are a golden god on any adventure. You're going kayaking, you're dialed. You're going skateboarding, you're dialed. You're going on a hike, you're dialed in. So check out the Hopper M20 soft backpack cooler. The Hopper M20 is the cooler that goes where other coolers can't. Get dialed in.
I love it. I think back to you when you were in the lights class and Townley you guys were like 1-2 the whole season.
We lost one race that year.
Yeah. And then, nowadays you see guys under the same factory tent, like Deegan took the inside there like this past weekend here, because this is before Salt Lake Supercross, we're recording this. And, they're both under the same tent, but you guys I don't think from what I remember, you guys raced pretty clean.
Yeah, no, it was a heavy, we had a heavy summer that year. And Mitch handled it really, really well. The whole team did actually, but you had you had a world champ that came over, and then myself, and we like I said, we lost only one moto that entire year out of 24 motos. Either I won or Ben won every single moto except for one. Josh Grant won. I think it was High Point. He maybe won the first moto of that day. But yeah, it was an intense year of racing. But the fun part of that year, all three of those years, because just you're young, dumb, and full of piss and vinegar, and really nothing, no responsibilities other than your parents still basically getting you to the track. But we raced all year hard, bar to bar, and then afterwards you could find me and Ben in the back of the truck, eating chips and salsa and having a Coke, and just bullshitting in the back of the truck. So I would say those are probably some, like you call it, golden years of my career, just because it was simple.
Yeah, incredible. It seems like a lot of the guys don't have that relationship under the tent when they're battling.
And I think that's, just in general, that's what kind of brought that up with action sports, and then us being what we are, like there is no like friendship, like really, even when you go down to the line. Yeah, sure, some guys, small talk, but like we ain't going out and having dinner together, like I was really close with Jake Weimer. He was my teammate on the 450s at Cowie. And we're still friends to this day. We talk probably a couple times a week, or he comes and stays at the house because his daughter's in Huntington. But yeah, it's a very isolated sport.
Yeah, but you also put these like blinders on, right? So when you were racing, you didn't have any outside distraction.
Yep. Yeah, and that's it. And I think if you go back, call it early 90s, it was more like action sports. MC, MEG. That's just kind of, they partied, they hung out, they all kind of hung out, they had their deal. And then Ricky came in and changed that game with, don't ride with your competitors. And I think it was good, elevated the sport. But from I guess from my standpoint now, being a dad and having my kids into it, how could I change, or not necessarily change a sport, but change how they perceive it and like have more fun at it. Like, if we could.
Yeah.
It's fucking
What
tough.
does that entail?
I don't know. Dude. It's tough.
Because it's like, it seems like the way to do it, people just pound out motos all day, and it's just like stopwatch and sprints and corner drills. And it seems like, I don't know, I'm not offering unsolicited advice, but the way to do that, if I'm thinking about it from a snowboarder perspective, right, we're like very unorganized. You just go and you just go down the hill and you fly off of jumps and you slide down rails. There's not like, there is, but it's not as military training. But like going in free ride, like letting the kids free ride, I feel like could be a good kind of,
and that's free. So yes, swinging your leg over the motorcycle every single time to execute something is where it becomes it becomes a job, right? Like we're here, you have to ride. We only have 2 hours, so we need to execute. We need to get all of our shit done, and then we need to drive home. So being able to either have a place or give them that time to go out and call it play ride, just go out and fuck off, which brings its own set of, call it, that if you're screwing off, that sometimes, I guess the persona around that is you could potentially get hurt. Then you miss your amateur national type,
True.
And then the dad's like, I've got all this money into this and this and, blah, 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 blah. And we're all set up. And then you go out and get fucking hurt on a pit bike.
Yeah.
So, but I really think that the play riding side of it teaches you so much, the technique, bike skills,
bike handling, all that kind of thing. Yeah.
Bike skills when you're out there and you would say, I want to hit this little jump right here. What the takeoff's not a normal takeoff. It'd be like running the pipe or going backcountry. Everything's completely different.
Yep.
So, learning that I think comes from play riding, because if you're just at the track every day, it's a groomed track, and yes, it gets gnarly, gets ruddy, gets bumpy, and gets kickers and things like that. But that's more of a race scenario versus that play scenario, and also your mental state of what you're out there doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, making decisions for yourself too. Not having a coach tell you to do something. I think there's some power in that.
Mm-hmm, totally.
Yeah, I want to go back to. Oh yeah, so you're set. So when you won, did you win lights first year?
First year outdoors.
Outdoors. Yep. So I'm just curious, as somebody as an outsider, coming from snowboarding, we don't know anything about what's a win bonus, what's a championship bonus. Like you're 17. What kind of money are we talking?
Yeah, it's good money. Like my first contract from Kawasaki, I just had turned 17. I think was $225,000 for base salary. Supercross win, so a Saturday night win would be $10,000, I think is what it was for the heat race, and then $50,000 for the main event. Now you go to 450, that's still $10,000 for the heat race, but it's $100,000 for the main event on the weekend. Now break that to, championship bonuses for Supercross for the 250 class is still the same today. It's $500,000. 450 is $1 million, and same with outdoors. It's the same. They roll it over to that too. So there's a lot of money on the line, and I think, and the manufacturers too, right? Like that's kind of where that mentality comes from. Is I think we all want the sport to grow and get bigger, and we see F1, we see MotoGP, and we see what that platform has for them, the money that's in that, which is way substantially more than us. How can we be more like that? And so I think that's where a lot of that mentality comes from, of like isolation and just being like nose to the grindstone all the time.
I think Supercross more fun to watch than F1. It kind of baffles me that it totally is. I'm like, well, this is the best racing to watch.
What's
from a
cool
racing standpoint
with Supercross, it's in a city, right? Yep. So here we are, we're in Salt Lake. There's a race here. People can come in, watch it. It's 2 to 3 hours. It's exciting. I think, it's definitely something you want to go watch and have fun, So I think it's so, I've been to F1, I've been to NASCAR, I've been to all these races, and definitely Supercross I enjoy it.
100%.
Yeah, and you can get down and you can touch and feel everything and smell it, from it just having your normal ticket, right? And you get into the pits with a pit pass. You have just as good a chance as anybody else to get a jersey from somebody, or plastics, or whatever, or meet a rider. We're very we're very accessible from an athlete standpoint. F1 0 chance, MotoGP. If you're not somebody, you ain't meeting anybody. You can't get into the boxes. At MotoGP, where like literally you can stand at the edge of our tent and see the mechanics working on the bikes, right? Totally. So it's very accessible from that standpoint. Still, raw, which is what makes our sport so special.
100%. I was down at 2 years ago at Supercross. I got some really good seats, and I got hit with some roost. I was like, "This is fun." You smell the race gas. They got pyrotechnics.
Yeah,
they got people doing wheelies. AP's got a cowboy hat on. He's doing a wheelie. It's a great show. It's incredible.
It is. Yeah.
What about being 17, having that kind of money? Did you do some dumb shit? Did you buy some dumb stuff?
No, I mean, because part of that, like, raised or not raised, but like being put in that position, like my parents stayed pretty close, which was good because I think I would have done some probably stupid shit. We had fun and stuff, but it was pretty reined in because you got to remember we call it January 7th and we don't finish till end of September. So it's literally like all season long. So, and then afterwards, you might have a week or two, but as for the money, like for me, I didn't at 17, like, what am I wasn't into cars really, so I didn't have any expensive cars and shit like that. But yeah, sure. I had a credit card. We'd go to fucking lunch every day, we'd go hang out, I want a new pair of shoes. Like it was all just dumb shit, nonsense, cheap, call it cheap, but like fun shit. And me and my cousin came down, Spencer, he's a year and a half older than I am, Alaska based commercial fisher. And he came down at this time, and we were, like I said, still call it kids. And he just cause he just came down and lived with us for 6 months, hung out with me and went to the track every day. And that's kind of what we did, just fucked off, and executed while riding.
But I think you always had good people around you too.
I did. I always had.
That's key.
Yep. I always, if it wasn't my mom or my dad or Spencer or whatever, having a good group of people, I think a lot of dumb shit happens or you get yourself into these issues with a lot of the people you hang out with too, so, in our sport, it's kind of one or the other. You're either kind of a real dumb shit or you have your shit together. There's not a lot of middle ground.
Yeah, well said. Well, I want to pivot. I want to talk about MXDN Budds Creek on a 250F, winning by a minute 30. Good fucking God, what a race that was.
Yeah, that was probably, I would say, still to this day, fans and questions and things like that. That's probably the one that comes up the most is Motocross the Nations at Budds Creek in 2007.
For the listeners, explain what motocross is to nations and how big of a deal it is.
It's basically like the Olympics.
Yeah, that's what
I
it
would
is.
say.
Yes.
Yep. As everybody knows, the Olympics doesn't have anything motorized in it. So this is our Olympics. We have basically, we pretty much have every country involved. They send 3 riders. If they have the funding, they send 3 riders. But that's pretty much every country involved. It's basically a 3-day long event of 3. So that for us, we had myself, Ricky Carmichael, and Tim Ferry. Whew. So we had a hell of a team. We were on U.S. soil. It hadn't been back on U.S. soil for many, many, many years. And Budds Creek, I always had a blast at Budds Creek, have a good track record at Budds Creek. So we showed up there for Team USA. It was actually Ricky's last race also before he retired. And we just we smashed them, literally, especially me. That's the one people say that race will, will always, or will go down in history as probably one of the best, at least for me, one of the best races.
Why there? What do you think? Was it the day? Was it the track?
I think it was the day. I think it was the track. I think it was, as a racer and being that you're racing for yourself, but then also, you have 2 other teammates on the team that have to execute too. We only have 1 throwaway moto and each of us get 2. So basically you have 6 motos and you can drop 1. So you have 5 motos that count for a score. And, going into that and I had done, so I believe I did 06 in Matterley, I believe, that's in England. So you're not on US soil. And no matter where you go, it seems like, I don't know if this is for you guys as snowboarders, but the Americans always have a target on their back. Everybody wants to beat us. Everybody wants to show them that they're better than us. And that's the way it was. So, the pressure doing my very first MXoN in Europe was massive at 17. And then MXoN a year later on US soil, it just felt more like home. I knew the track. We had the home turf advantage. And and just it was I think the stars aligned a little bit. Like the way I say that is like that day for me. Like it's like I couldn't make a mistake. I made a guy fell in front of me actually on one of these this like slow section over this jump, and I got my bike. He literally right in front of me, so I rode up on his bike and got stuck. But I had such a huge lead, I had the time to pull it off, get back going. Like, but other than that, that wasn't my mistake. But like literally, it was like I was in Matrix. I could see everything happening. You know, that's the feeling. Kind of, if I go back and try to put it into words now, like it was a perfect day. From a ride, from an athlete, from a riding, like it's like going snowboarding, and you just every move you make, you crush it.
And then, but also the fact that you're on a 250F, like racing against big bikes.
I think you should explain to people that he's on a smaller bike.
Yeah.
Half the horsepower basically, and you blew everyone out of the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big kind of kicker to the I guess to the story too, is being on a 250F. Everybody else was on 450s. It happened to work out that we were lucky. Just the way the first turn was, that's just the way the track was built.
Just lined up all the way on the inside.
Very first gate on the inside, and typically the way it works is with gate pick like that, you got 2 U.S. riders, but you have every team has 2 riders lining up on that gate at that current moment. So either we had first gate pick, but you only get to pick one. So Ricky gave me the inside gate, and then Ricky lined like 22-ish on the outside. So much further on the outside. Now the outcome could have been different, or would have probably been different if I didn't get the inside gate, but that's just call it not team tactics, but we planned that. He's like, hey, you're on a smaller bike, you go to the inside, hopefully to get you off the gate. I'll manage myself. Obviously, I was a kid. Ricky was 26, 27, retiring, way more experienced. I can handle myself out here. You go to the inside, we'll give you the best option. And that's what we ended up doing.
Ricky crashed in one of his motos, didn't he?
He did,
on the
yeah.
start?
He fell. He fell in one of them. Yeah, I think the first one he did for Moto 1. But yeah, it really couldn't have been more of a perfect day. It was the fucking crowd. The crowd was insane too, and they sold that place out. It was fucking packed.
And for the listeners, people flying from all different countries. They got chainsaws that they're revving. They got all. It's like people are sleeping in tents, like deleting beers, just getting annihilated. It's like it's a real spectacle.
It is. It's a crazy race. It's awesome that I got to race one in the U.S. for sure. But I always had the most fun going, across the pond to Europe. Mm-hmm. The European fans for motorsports in general, but also for dirt bikes, they're just fucking nut jobs. Like they love it, and a lot of them, I feel like, have maybe even never rode, but it's the culture of how they were brought up in watching motorsports.
100%.
Now, do you find yourself slowing down a little bit in your older age, maybe getting off hill a little earlier? Well, you could be dehydrated. 75% of Americans are dehydrated. And that goes up when you're at elevation, when you're in the mountains. So I drink Bubs Hydrate or Die hydration packets. There's 2,000 milligrams of electrolytes. There's no added sugar. There's no artificial flavors. Let me tell you, when I'm hydrated, I ride better. I can ride longer. I have more energy. All in all, my vitality is just better. So if you're interested in picking up some Bubs Naturals Hydrate or Die, head on over to bubsnaturals.com and use promo code BOMBHOLE for 20% off your order. And stay hydrated, people, with Bubs Naturals Hydrate or Die.
All right, we're going to take a brief intermission to discuss some incredible offers from our incredible friends over at Woodward Park City. Get your child's snowboarding adventure started correctly at Woodward Park City. Whether they're making their first turns or mastering front boards, Woodward Park City has a wide range of classes for all ages and all skill levels. If you're interested in progressing, head on over to woodwardparkcity.com.
I got a question. You racing Mammoth this year?
I am racing Mammoth. Actually, all of us are. The boys too, and me.
Oh, nice. So you're staying for the vet weekend and then the kids weekend?
Yes. Well, so I believe it's vet first. Vet starts off the whole kick at Mammoth and then right into the mini bikes. So I'll be up Thursday or ish, I bet, Thursday. And then I think we run practice Friday for vet. And then and then Saturday, Sunday race, and then I think Monday basically into mini bikes. So be there for like 6 days.
So what class? You're pro? What are you racing?
I actually don't even know what class on the vet weekend yet. So
Is Josh Grant going to be in it?
I don't know if
going to
JG's coming out. He's Florida based now, or George.
Who are your
Florida,
adversaries in the vet class these days?
Well, see, like I said, I need to know because like last year it didn't pan out. Schedules didn't pan out, so I had to do the pro week or whatever. I don't know what you
raced
call
that.
it.
All the dogs.
The more premier week.
Yep.
And so I raced a pro class that week or last year. So because the thing is when you start talking vet classes, since I've scored points and also past champion, like I can't ride a true vet class till I'm at least like from an AMA standpoint, Loretta's for example, vet for me starts at 40.
Okay.
Even though like if you go to your local track here, they'll have 30 plus pro vet or whatever, So I don't know what class I'm riding actually.
Let me tell you something, Ryan. You're lucky you're not in the 30C class because that's what I race. It is fucking carnage. Okay?
Bomb hole.
There's bomb holes everywhere. I mean, you're going down the track. Oh, bike cartwheeling. Okay, let's go right. Next turn, bike cartwheeling. There's bodies hitting the ground everywhere you look. It is a war zone.
Especially at Mammoth too, because like there's parts of the track that are really wide. But you've rode there, and it all bottlenecks in a lot of the turns. Like it's kind of like driving on a river road, kind of like you're big berms, and then you come to a narrow area, and then it widens up, and then it's narrow again.
You got to make all your passes down the hill. Let it all hang out. And let me tell you, I ripped a hole shot there in the 30C LCQ. It's the peak of my moto career.
Nice, dude.
Got the win for the LCQ against the back of the pack 30C guys. First gear start. That's what I do. Did you start in first there?
I believe so. Concrete gate too. Yeah. So like last year like I said, I raced it last year and I hadn't been on a concrete gate in probably 20 years. So I'm like, oh shit, I got to get my shit together here, cause like, and I think, what was it? First moto, I'm trying to remember. I think first moto, I didn't get a great start. I did okay, but I ended up whole shot. And I think second moto red flagged it. So
goddamn red flag.
I know I was pissed. I had a chance. I had a chance. I don't think I would have won it because they run like 20 minutes up there. It's 8,500 feet. Like, I'm not training.
You haven't been riding the bike?
Nothing. So
right off the couch.
Yeah, Cole Martinez ended up getting me.
Oh, he's a dog.
Yeah, he's good.
He's a dog.
So he's who I raced last year.
Yep. You know what's so cool about the Father's Day weekend thing too is like I was there. You have Josh Grant racing one year, and you see all the kids cheering on the dads. That's what I thought was really fun to watch. And
is it over Father's Day this weekend or this?
I thought it was always Father's Day. I might be making that up.
It
could be fake news.
It's like June 20th or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
So yeah, if you need any good pointers on starts, just give me a call. I'll get
Have you ever noticed how many rough gates there are? Like there's like 5 OG gates, concrete gates. They're concrete spots on the gate that are like all fucking chipped up, full traction.
There's one that has there's like a little metal stub that comes out of it. And I notice it's where McGrath always starts. And so I think it's like maybe it's somewhere on that inside there in the middle. I don't know what that would be. But MC always races it too. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going up this year.
He's on a 125.
Yeah.
He passed me in practice. He gave me a little yay, and then passed me on the outside. I was like, that's fucking McGrath. Yes. Cool. All right, let's talk about transitioning onto to big bikes when you got on the premier class with the big dogs. How was that transition?
That was rough. It was like, I had 2, because I think 09 was my first year. Yeah, 09 and then 10. Just the workload was way more, from the season standpoint. 17 rounds of Supercross, 11 or 12 outdoors, plus Motocross of Nations.
Monster Cup.
Plus Monster Cup back then. Yep, exactly. So it was the workload was drastically different. That's kind of when, earlier in the show brought up Aldon's name. Those first 2 years were I think I ended up with 2 wins between I think 09, the end of Supercross season. I think I ended up winning two rounds in 09. And then 10 was a little bit better, but then obviously blew my leg up in 10 towards the end of Supercross, and then didn't race outdoors. And then that's when I had to make a drastic change in my program.
Let's talk about that St. Louis crash, because that was like potentially career ending, right?
Yeah. It wasn't a good one, that's for sure. Broke tib, fib, and then both of the ankle bones too, on like that are on the inside and outside of your foot. And I can remember afterwards, I even crashed on that same jump, punctured both lungs. As I'm laying there with my lower leg fucking all sideways, he was more of a priority than I was because of he punctured both lungs. So I'm just sitting there in the fucking gurney at the Alpenstars mobile medical unit, basically just waiting because they were attending to him because he was a higher priority than I was. But yeah, get all that kind of sorted, get to the hospital. Right before they put me under, I said, "You guys don't have consent to do surgery on me," because we were downtown St. Louis, like fucking crackheads, like just bizarre what you see at downtown hospital like that. So I like stood up and I was like, you can stabilize it, but you're not allowed to fix it. So then that was a long process. I think 4.5 months from kind of start to finish. Ended up having to fix it. I had a bus on the road at the time, so I drove from St. Louis back home, and then ended up finding a doctor actually randomly out of Seattle that I had him fix it. So then I flew up to Seattle and had him fix it. 2 different surgeries, 8 hours apiece, over a course of a week. So it was rough for a while.
So you drove the bus back, broken leg, and not you, but I mean, and that's gnarly too.
Yeah.
Like,
because I wasn't going to try to fly at that point. Like I was in too much pain and everything like that. I was like, fuck, I'll just lay in my king size bed in my bus. If I can have my uncle drive me down the road. So we made it back to California, flew up to Seattle, got it fixed, and then was just on the mend. So, and then actually, I met with Aldon. So that was when I broke it. Was maybe let's just call it 4 or 5 rounds from the end of the season ish. It was closing down to coming to the end of Supercross season. So missed all of outdoors, but I was still on crutches, and I had a meeting with Aldon at Paula. So James had it was Ricky had Aldon for many years. James hired him, won his championships. Paggio from Oakley called me and said, "Hey, I'm just letting you know that Eldon's available." And I said, "All right, do you want to meet with him?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Let's meet at Paula." So I met at Paula and then talked to him for call it 20 minutes, and hired him basically right there. If I wouldn't have hired him there, Dunge would have hired him. And then me and Aldon went through our stint, right, until I retired, and then Dunge hired him right after that. So it was going to be one between us two. Now, at the time I was just like, I'd won races. I knew that I could win races. It was the fitness side of it that was lacking. And, basically said, okay, well, I'm in. And then obviously I had to talk about, what I was going to pay him. So I'm like, oh, so what's this looking like? And he goes, okay, well, it's $350 plus $50,000 championship bonus.
Holy shit. Yeah.
So, I'm like, okay. The way I looked at it, the way I justified it was I'd already won, right? I had won a couple of races prior to that in 2009, and then I won a few also in 10 before I got hurt. I'm like, well, it's $100,000 to win. So fuck, if I win 3 races, basically I can have them paid off.
So what is that? What does that cover? Just for people that don't know, like what's
this program?
Yeah,
basically, I hired a babysitter. In not so many words, for me, I was the guy that I didn't necessarily mind working out, but it's not high on my priority list. Where a guy like Dunge almost had to be pulled back. He does call it too much, or maybe not the right things. Where for me, it was like I didn't do enough. So yeah, basically hired a babysitter to write the program on what, lap counts, fitness stuff, road bikes, gym, diet, all of that. So he handled kind of all of that. We lived, when I lived in Florida, Claremont, just outside Orlando, we were only a couple miles from each other. So basically 7:30 every morning, I'd see him. Like I saw him more than I saw my wife for like the 4 years that we trained together, you know? So, but it drastically changed the outcome of my 450 career from a consistency standpoint, from it elevated all of it.
Yeah, because if you look, you had 2 wins, you get injured, you start working with Aldon, and that's when 2011's when shit just went crazy.
It did, yeah. Like, dude, I hired him. We were back in Florida. I just started walking on this on my leg, and he had lived in the current time. He had lived in Tallahassee, and we were in Claremont. So I went up to Tallahassee to kind of check out the area, and because we were just renting in Claremont, so I could, kind of move around and do whatever. If I needed to move to Tallahassee, I could have. So he wanted me to move to Tallahassee, and I went up there, and I just didn't really dig it where he was, and it's way buggier up there for sure. So, and we were kind of already set up. So I'm like, hey man, I already have a track. I have this all down here. Like, why don't you consider moving to Claremont? And obviously big life adjustment for him, but he took that on, moved down to Claremont too. And then we just literally saw each other every day, after that. But like I said, when I showed to Tallahassee, like he wanted, hey, we're going to just do a little bit of stretching. I never stretched prior to this. Literally like, fuck dude, I did like 3 or 4 stretches and then pinched a nerve in my back. I fucking walked around like I was 80. And he'll tell the story and he goes, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with this guy. I just made a massive mistake taking this fucking kid on. Like I was, and part of that was just obviously coming off the leg. I was really out of shape. But when I broke this leg, I was like running around at like 178 actually that's what I am right now, 178. So I went from what I currently am to when I showed up at Anaheim 1, I was 148.
Holy shit.
So
leaned out.
Yeah, fighting,
like
ready to fight.
in 4 months, so drastically changed the whole trajectory of my 450 career.
Made sure you weren't eating any French fries, stuff like that.
French fries.
No French fries.
No beer.
No beer. Oh.
So.
You ever sneak off when he wasn't looking and try to...
So dude. I was at a low, right? Like I was busted up. Yeah, I had won some races, but like at this point, like I'm like, so I followed it to the T. And he'll tell the story too. He's like, every one of you guys that whenever my phone rings for somebody like this, you guys are at the bottom of the barrel. Like you need help. So, so for the first like literally 24 months, like, didn't deviate off of it at all. Now towards 3 years into it, sure, I would add in things that weren't on his diet. But at that point I had the base, I could do that. And if that was, kind of kept me happy, going out to an Italian joint and getting pasta and 2 glasses of wine kept me, call it sane. But I already had the base built in to where that you wouldn't even, it wouldn't affect anything. You wouldn't notice that had happened or anything like that. But, before I had hired him, that's kind of that was what I did. So it was, you could see every chink in the armor.
Was that tough? To change like that?
It was maybe at first, just from the standpoint of like quantities, typically Americans overeat. And then some of the quality stuff, we always ate good quality stuff, but it's like no red meat, chicken, fish, no cheese, no table bread, things like that were huge. Don't eat after basically 8 o'clock. Like 8 o'clock's like the latest, right? Like where, no snacking, things like that. So just little things. But when you take those little things and you add it onto the amount of workload that you're doing during the day, and you give yourself 3 months of that and it never breaking it, especially early on, it does a world of difference.
Yeah. And I'm sure your healing sped up like crazy and
all of it.
Yeah. So that 2011 year, Volcom made a documentary called To Be Continued, which is fucking awesome. As an action sports guy, I'll pump your tires a little bit here. It's a podcast for that anyway. Sure. But I would cruise around. I have every snowboard video on my iPad, and And basically, I had the to be continued on there too, and I would always watch it was just the audio. I think it was from Palo when you clinched the title, and it was like all six. I don't even know if you've watched this thing too many times, but great documentary. That year, you won everything, and in that documentary, you say at the beginning, "If I could go back and do it all over again, I wouldn't race." Do you still stand by that?
No, I don't. Obviously, look at myself now. Yeah.
Good point.
I'm in the fucking trenches now. So,
yeah.
I think, that was being young. Also, I think it all happened, call it pretty quick. Once I turned pro, it was very accelerated. And now I guess what I could say is no, I wouldn't do it again. I wish I could have done a few things different, tried to learn to have a little more fun. And that's kind of like now I'm reliving all of that, right? Like with my kids, like how can I keep this sport fun for them? And part of that is letting them play ride. I guess the moral of my story is I've only ever done this, and from being a dad, like this is the only thing I can teach them, how to build character, be tough, work hard. Like I never swung a hammer, so I don't have anything else to fall back on. This is how I'm going to make them a man, because this is what I did. This was my job. Right. So, and it is a job, but I think for me, looking back, that just I wish I could have tried to have a little more fun, I don't know how to do that, but I'm learning it still to this day.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we got a guest question from Vicky Golden, another one, kind of about this. So here we go.
Vicky Golden calling in to ask RV a question. Man, we all know Supercross and motocross is a very high stress environment where the work is pretty much never ending. I feel like we always see a personality change once a racer of your stature retires. I didn't really know you that well before when you were racing, but I got to know you a little bit more at that Yamaha commercial we filmed before. And it turns out you're a friggin' awesome human being that loves to have a good time. So my question for you is, what changes for a racer, for you, that changes once you retire?
And I think so. A lot of that, I think, to answer that question is not being pulled in, say, 20, 23 different directions. So that's retiring. Now you don't have any like real obligations, I guess you'd say. Like I have some, but compared to what I did have is drastically different. And I think also our sport too is it's not like true action sports where you express who you are through your skating or your snowboarding. It's you kind of, our sport's more, hey, fit inside this box a little bit. I think riders are doing a way better job at it now currently, like Deegan and Juju and I don't know who else is out there that's has a good presence right now. But they're doing a way better job at it now. And I think for us, we kind of had this cookie cutter vibe because, myself, Dunge, like we came off of it was like, I use Ricky, right? Like Ricky started it, and then we were kind of like at the tail end of that. And now I feel like we see a different generation or a different mentality a little bit. So it's getting more thinking outside the box and not being so cookie cutter. So once I did retire, like I think I gained more fans when I retired, or stronger fan relationship than when I was racing, because then they get to see like kind of the true who I was. But, like, I don't know. I'm not a good person that can do two things. Like I can be really good at one, so like, so can I go see, like for me, for example, just a small example, like we would get home, fly into Orlando, we'd get home pretty early, 10 o'clock, where I would just kind of like just want my time to chill and sit on the couch and watch TV all day. Where other guys like Kenny, for example, he'd be like, dude, I'm going out on the boat today. And I'm like, well, fuck, dude, we got to ride on tomorrow. Like, I just want to like chill, so different mentalities. And I think that's one of those things. Like, yes, is it a little bit of work? Yes, is it hot outside? Yeah, it is. But you go out and just fucking hang out on the boat. You don't have, like, I'm kind of like a wide open guy. Like if we're here to party, we're here to fucking party, and I go pretty hard. It's not like I'm going to have 1 or 2 beers and then it's like, yes, I can. But my point is I'm kind of an all in or all out guy. So I went all in on racing, which for the longevity of it probably wasn't great, but I executed and achieved everything that was on my goal sheet. If I would have tried to have more fun, maybe that wouldn't have happened, right? There's that catch-22. So for me now, I look back at, being like going to be 37 in August. It's like, dude, this is the only thing I know, and it's a pretty fucking badass sport. And I think it takes maturity and just time and to kind of realize that. And then as you know, the older you get, the bigger the fish was that you caught, even though it was this big, like, fuck, I used to do that. Like you guys are all pussies. Yeah. So a little bit of that.
You're telling your son,
exactly.
your results.
Exactly. So a little bit of that. So I just think for me now, like, I think that's what's really great for where I sit in my position now. I'm with Yamaha. Fast House is the gear brand that I'm with, and they promote me to be able to do that. Like, they don't try to keep me inside of my box. But like I said, I don't know if I could do both. Do be this professional person over here and then have that over here also. I did one very well.
And now you get to go like ride with Yamaha, and it's not like all this pressure for you to go, you're going on some ride. It's just show up and BRV.
Exactly.
And jam some motos out.
Yeah,
totally.
And like, dude, all the media, like they could have swore up and down, like, as soon as he's retired, we're never gonna see him again. We're never gonna see him again.
Yeah, it seemed that way though. Not that you get much from a podium speech, but your podium speech, you're pissed off. You just.
And I think a lot of that too is just kind of bred into where like, where you guys have competitions, right? And they're not every single weekend for 32 weekends. You win Saturday night, Monday morning, everybody, not that everybody's forgot about it, but like from the team's perspective and as a racer's perspective, Monday morning, that happened last week. Even though it was 30 hours ago.
Yeah.
Monday's now a new work week, and you can lose this coming Saturday. So you don't have this big like time to, like say in between comps where it's like, all right, I'm going to take this week off and then I'm going to hit it back again. I'm going to get my head right and I'm just going to chill. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to get back into it. It's like literally you have 24 hours before your mind is back in that situation. So it's everything happens so fast, and it's like you don't have any time to, live that win up essentially. Yeah. And it's same with the team, the people that are with the teams or that work with the teams, the engine guys, the suspension guys, the motor guys, the truck driver, like same thing with them. It's like, okay, Saturday night's over. We're packing up. We'll see you in 4 days.
Yeah,
totally.
So it's just that grind. It's that grind, that I think also, is sometimes hard to, it was hard for me, I guess. Now I look back, I'm like, oh, well, it's really not that big of a deal. Yeah. We could have gone out and had a couple beers on Saturday night after that win, but it was like, but I had Aldon and it's like, no, get to bed early. We have an early flight. When you get home, 20-minute run, Monday morning, 7:30, hour and a half bike ride, straight to the track, ride, gym, and that was our routine.
But you retired at 28. 28 is like you're still figuring your shit out. And
I know.
And you're fucking like, I'm good. I don't need to work. And like because of that grind, and now you can go on trail rides and go, do whatever you want to do.
And I think I've said this before, should have switched teams, should have switched up who I was riding for, not because what I had wasn't working, but just maybe a new goal, new team, new personnel. And I think also for me, what was, loved the situation I was in, but like if I would have went to a new team at say 25 years old, where now you're more of a man. You have a more of a leg to stand on. When you say something, you can kind of demand things. Not that I was ever a demanding person in that regard, but when you want shit done, I feel like you could do that. For me, I was at I was at Kawasaki from like say 13, 14 years old. So all of those people watched me kind of grow up and then step into pro circuit. They knew me.
It's like
and then
family.
Stepped into the 450. So like we had this great relationship, but it was also almost too close, right? So I think if I would have switched teams, see my truck driver, Big B, I'm still really good buddies with him. He goes, I told you should have switched. You just need something new, a new color fender, just new goals, new,
that makes sense.
Come into a team and, not that, like I said, not that I'm going to demand anything, but if you want something a certain way, I felt like it was maybe hard to ask over there versus if I would have came into a new team and had to learn a new bike and they have to learn me. Yeah. You go through those building times when things are going a little bit rough and maybe you blow a gasket and the team's like, fuck, I think all of that, I think that would have gained me maybe another 2 years. And I think if I would have made it I retired, I think just as I had turned 27. If I would have made it 2 more years, I think those were that 25, 26, 27, those were probably my hardest years. And I think once you get over that, you kind of, have heard the expression of like man strength and I just think that would have rolled over. I would have been 28, 29, almost 30. And I think then your perspective from like say 30 or 29 is much different than 25.
You're more confident.
Yeah.
You can speak to people the way you want. Yeah.
Things change and I just didn't stay long enough for that.
But you went over to Europe, right?
I did.
That was on the bucket list. And what happened over there? How was that?
It was a great experience. It was very tough from a living standpoint. Obviously, where the team was based was just outside Belgium, and things obviously ran completely different than over here. It wasn't very we just couldn't rent a house, So you got everything logistics wise was very tough. But the experience was a lot of fun. That's what I was more looking forward to was the experience. The team was okay. Was pretty good. A lot of them were French, so the major language barrier there, and also just the way they think is a little bit different. Like I have buddies that are German and multiple different areas, and we all kind of know a little bit. I'm not trying to be a dick to the French, but they kind of have their own kind of way of doing things. Yeah, they're tough. They can be tough, right? So, it was a huge ask for an American to go over there and race. Like I always think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's a lot easier for a European to come to the United States. Every gas station is open 24/7. Every grocery store is pretty much open. Like you can do or get anything you want in the United States, which is why it's one of the best places to live in the world. But you go over there, that gas station's shut at 5. The grocery store literally shuts at 6 o'clock. Like you're not getting food. You're not getting in to get food if you're fucking a minute late.
It's different.
So everything was just different.
All new tracks too.
All the tracks were different. And way more drive times. Like they have their work cut out for them when it comes to like quality of tracks and also like what the distances they go to find places to ride. Like I can remember driving from Belgium down to, I think it was like Dijon, France. It was like a 9-hour run just to go test for 2 days. That's unheard of here, right? Like we don't do that. So from a logistics standpoint, from me, it was tough, but it was a lot of fun.
You're racing 2 days in GP.
It was 2 days. It was Saturday, Sunday.
Qualifying day is basically a race day, right?
Yep. Qualifying day. Saturday is a qualifying, but it's a full race. And I believe now it's a pointed event. Like I think you get points towards towards the championship, I believe. But it was I had a blast doing it. It was a lot of fun. I wish obviously it would have gone different. I crashed 4th round in and broke my tailbone. And that was it for my European experience.
Do you got a win? Didn't
I did Thailand. Yeah. Went 1-2 for the overall at Thailand. And I think the last, I don't know the name and I don't know what year it was, but it was a fucking chunk of years since an American had won the 450 class or the premier class at the time. And I don't think anybody's won one since.
Cool. That's cool. I was actually at that race when he got hurt. And I remember, I think we went out to dinner that night or whatever, and your dad was there. You're sitting on a pillow.
Yep.
And your dad looked at me and goes, he's going to be fine. He'll race next weekend. And I was like, I don't think so. And he goes, well, I think we can like take his tailbone out or something. And I was like, I don't think you can do that.
Well, no, seriously. Like,
move the tailbone?
It was something.
Yeah,
crazy.
the very end of it, it was broken 4 spots in 4 little pieces. And so I get back to home base, which was Belgium. And obviously their medical, in my opinion, is actually a lot better than ours. But also they don't have FDA like we have, and it doesn't. And so long story short was the guy's like, well, I went and got it X-rayed, MRI'd or whatever. And he's like, yeah, we can take it out. So then I call Aldon and I'm like, hey, have you ever heard of this? Like they're saying they'll just take the end piece out. We'll cut a hole, fucking slide it out.
Oh God.
And then fucking sew you up and you go ride.
Wow.
And I'm like, and so I talked to Aldon about it and I'm just like, and at this point my head was kind of already out of it. It was out of it kind of before I even committed to going, but I had some deals that were on the line, or not on the line, but I had current deals that were still in for another year, and I didn't want to be that guy that just fucking botched the whole thing and be like, all right, peace, I'm out. And obviously it was a lot of money too, so I wanted to kind of make it right. And I was like, okay, well, this could be a good experience for me, and maybe it'll, relight the fire or whatever the case may be. But yeah, guys, like, yeah, we'll just take it out. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. There's a lot of nerves down there, I think. It's kind of like part of your spinal cord, but not really, but it is. And then why don't we just leave it in? So I just left, obviously left it in and flew back home.
That was it.
Once it healed.
Yeah.
I wasn't sitting on the flight for that long with a broken tailbone.
Do you think that, the workload of training with Aldon, like, do you think that pushed the burnout a little bit?
Not so much. I don't think it was Aldon at all, really. I think mentally just me and racing. And I think it's also for me, if I wasn't hurt, I won every championship I ever entered. If I wasn't hurt, pretty much, I believe that's correct. So like part of that started eating at me too. Like, when are you going to lose? When are you going to lose? I see. The thing is it might've been better for me to win a couple championships and then like straight up lose, not lose one from being hurt, because then it's like, okay, well, fuck, I wasn't the best that year. And then you work harder and come back and fight for that position again. Where for me, every time I raced a championship that I wasn't hurt in, I won. So I think that kind of started eating at me too a little bit, from a mental side of it. Like, how much longer can I keep this up, or when am I going to lose a little bit? So I don't think that was the best thing for me either. I think for the longevity and for, I think if I would have lost straight up lost a championship, I think that would have been better.
Yeah.
I mean, I did lose East Coast to Kennard. I started that season off though with this, getting a bone pulled out of my hand 2 weeks before the first gate drop. So I went in, I raced that with stitch, started the season with stitches. So technically I wasn't hurt, but I didn't have much lead up into it, for prep anyways. But also too, that was me being I was still a kid at that time. Like, I'm talking losing something a little later in my career and having to like find that fight and push back and wanting to be the best. Pretty much, like I said, I won everything that I had raced. Yeah.
What was the decision to go over to Europe and not just do another year over here? Just try something different, like you said.
Just literally try something different. Monster was just coming out to be title sponsor of MXGP also. So when I had dropped that carrot to them to be like, hey, what do you think of this option? they actually got really stoked on it. So then the partners got behind it. And then also at that point, that's kind of actually 2 weeks in, I said, hey, what do you think about this idea about going to Europe and racing? And they're like, all right, sounds fucking pretty cool. Let me run it up the chain. Well, everybody was excited about it. And at that point, at 2 weeks after that, I'm like, hey man, let's have another meeting. I'm cooked. I'm done. And like things were already in motion. So it kind of happened. I was mentally kind of already had left, but the train had already left the station. So I was on the boat.
I got a question. Now you're done. You're done racing. I was listening to Pulp, and you guys went up to Gold Creek, and you guys were riding some trails and whatnot. And it seems like you just pounded out motos like for most of your life. Did you enjoy jamming around in the woods?
Yeah, actually, I that's what if I ride anything, I prefer to ride single track.
Yeah.
Like I like the outdoors. I like to fly fish. I like to fish. Hunting also, like, I don't do a lot of it just because of schedule and kids and everything else. I thought I would be, I guess, early as race. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to go here and I'm going to do this. I'm going to kill that and I'm going to fucking catch that. And that never happened. Obviously, it retired and then had like a 2 years of like just not doing anything. Moved back to Paulsbo. Was there for like a little over 2 years. And then I was on a trip, I think I was still with Cowie at the time. And I'm getting like some houses sent to me. I'm like, why? What the fuck? We just finished remodeling this house. And she goes, I don't know. I'm just looking. I'm like, why, you want to move? And she's like, yeah, I don't know. And then we literally moved like fucking 6 weeks later after that back to Cali. So, and that's kind of one of those stories, I like, hey, and she's like, all right, let's try it. Like growing up, because I fully left there like around 15. So I had this envision of how I was a kid and growing up. My whole, like, there's probably, at the time, there was almost 30 of us, family, extended family, cousins, and everybody that lived within like 10 minutes of each other. I'm like, that's the fucking jam. Like, that's how I want my kids to grow up. But then you get up there, and I don't know if it's just current life now. It's like, everybody's busy. They got kids. They're on the sports doing this. We're over here. I'm here. Like, yeah, I see each other, but fuck, I might as well just fly up and see you.
Yeah.
If I don't see you, like how I was every Sunday night, every Sunday we had dinner together at my grandma's house, every Sunday when we were in town. That was early. And then obviously once racing started, it got a little far and few between.
Yeah, when I was thinking about starting to go back to the trail riding thing, it just popped in my head. But you guys were riding around Gold Creek, and they were saying you guys were pulling tear-offs when you guys were riding around.
I think there's some. I don't think you're supposed to.
That's great.
And then there's some spots there you're not supposed to like get off the trail and shit. Like, it's a little bit like that, and like you take a bunch of like.
Moto.
Yeah, like hillbillies and like, dude, look at that. I'm going to try to go up that hill. Yeah. Like, don't turn your camera off. Yeah. Don't put that one in the shot.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right, we're going to talk about Herschel outdoor equipment. You may have seen them. We give them to all of our guests that win Name That Video part. Pack them full of bomb hole merch. They are sleek, and they're introducing a brand new performance line for travel and the outdoors. They got Alpine inspired and designed with multi-functionality for the first chair or last minute flight. I personally use all Herschel gear when I travel. I use the roller bag. I use the big roller bag. They got great backpacks. And the one thing I like, you can take your backpack and slide it over your roller bag, and you can be a true pro traveler. All their stuff's really well made, and they're building a team. They got Arthur Longo and the Dust Box on board already. So if you're interested in getting some sleek new travel gear, check out Herschel.com.
All right, we're going to take a quick intermission here to talk to you about our good friends over at Pub Beer, who just happen to be the official beer of questionable decision-making and cheap fun. That's right. You heard it here first. Whether you're just having a couple, maybe you're watching the game, Pub Beer's a great option. Cheap fun. Maybe you need 50. Did you just get dumped? Pub Beer's got you covered. Cheap fun every time. Pub Beer.
Yeah, I want to get into a great topic. I know this is probably right behind, this comes in right behind Budds Creek Motocross the Nations, but Lasergate at Washougal. Fantastic. I think this would be really interesting for non-moto people to hear about like the great lengths that people go to try to win motocross races and how fucking serious it is.
Yeah, not everybody. So not most people don't. But this is actually the one holding the laser pin was Jeff Alessi, so Mike's brother. But they at the time as amateurs, they were always trying to figure out that one up, right, as an amateur. And then obviously we turned pro, and I had a GoPro on in that at Washougal that year. And the camera picked it up, but I never saw it. And then I don't know how he got caught, but yeah, he had a laser pin. He was standing behind one of the giant big fir trees up there at Washougal. And for whatever reason, I happened to get it. I don't know exactly why. Other than maybe just past history, like I was the most accessible one to get with the pen. But me and Mike weren't racing for a championship at that time. Like I was already 450 when that all happened. And you know, we were miles apart in where we were finishing and championship points and things like that. But yeah, people do some crazy shit.
So you're lining up at the gate.
Yeah, 30-second boards up.
In your eye, you noticed it, or
I didn't. The camera picked it up, and then somebody had said, like, I didn't even know what happened. Pulled podium, get to the podium, do my deal, and then I'm hearing all the kind of this chatter about that, and then find out that AMA and threw Jeff out. Obviously, Jeff's dad, Mike's dad, Tony, was team manager, I think, of Moto Concepts at the time. So it was kind of this bad deal, right, for them. It didn't affect me at all. I didn't notice it. But
that's crazy.
Pretty fucking interesting.
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
I'm going to hide up here the laser pointer.
Yeah, like I don't... Yeah,
get him back.
Yeah, it's like he really put the hammer down in the amateurs. Yeah. We owe him this one. That's great. It's as a fan though, as a fan of the sport, the one thing that we're in snowboarding, we're in action sports. Everybody's friends. They're fucking all buddies. It's not everybody. There's some little bit of beef, but there's not real beef. That's what I love about moto. It's like a lot of the guys, you guys don't like each other, and they're doing fucking laser pointers and doing Lasergate. And for the fans, we got Lasergate. How great is that? We got something to talk about, Yeah,
no, it's definitely way different, like from that aspect, from the friends and hanging out and doing all that. Like it is very isolated too, which goes back to like, it's great to have a fucking badass Ferrari sitting in your garage, but you can drive it by yourself all the time. That takes a lot of the fun out of it too, from that aspect. Nobody wants to do cool shit alone.
Yeah.
What about, now versus then, like the current state of racing of you coming up versus where it's at right now? How do you feel like it's changed for better or worse?
I don't think it's changed a ton. Money's still the same from a contractual point of view. The sport's growing. I think stadiums are packed. I mean, every stadium this year, I believe, has been pretty much packed. That's the question I think we all have, right? Especially as an ex-athlete, like, what are the plans for the sport? How do you grow it? How do you become like MotoGP or I guess from an American standpoint, I know it's never going to be like football or baseball or soccer or anything like that, but how do you grow it? How do we get to that next level? And I know right now, if it wasn't for energy drinks, like our sport would have been in trouble many years ago. Great sponsors like Monster, for example, still backs me. Red Bull's still in the sport. Rockstar's still in the sport. So how do you grow it? I think if any of us had the answer, they've already would have implemented it, right?
Yeah. Well, the only thing that I'm sure this is the most obvious answer, but for Formula One, the Drive to Survive series seemed to, I'm guessing that it had have just skyrocket the amount of, and it seems like with all of the cast of characters, with your Degans, with your, if that was to be all compiled into some type of similar series like that. It would have to be.
Me and Bryan have talked about it, a lot about, like that's kind of what the sport needs to be picked up by a Netflix or Amazon Prime, and get it to run for, on the top 10. Obviously, I know what the top 10 is. You have to make the top 10. But if it could be on that, on the live on that screen for let's say 30 days of when you open Amazon or open Netflix, if you're a fan of it or not a fan or know nothing about it, and because the problem is you have to search it, and we need the eyeballs that don't know about the sport. We have the eyeballs that
it's so important, because if you look at F1, just take that as an example, it grew the sport. And I think the reason it did it really was because you understood it. You get to see the drivers. You got to see what really happens behind the curtain. And I think with Moto, the one thing that's super interesting, and it surprises me it hasn't happened, is the access to the athletes. You can go to their training facility. You can see them ride. You can see their mechanics. You can't do that with F1. It's kind of a removed situation. Yeah, they have the race shops and all that. But it's the other thing too with Moto is it's one of the most physically demanding sports. Like, these guys are true athletes, and what they go through, it needs to be told and shown,
Yeah, like if you had the camera on you in the RV going back cross country after you get bodied, like they see you on top of the podium, but nobody sees that.
Nobody's. I mean, and look, there you can get some of that stuff, but I think the way Drive to Survive was shot. And the way it was put together was, a motorsports fan or not, it was very interesting. And I think we have that same deal. And I think same with F1, like a lot of guys were super against it.
In the beginning.
First,
Yep.
Right. And then they saw the success of it after year one. And now you had teams coming to them to want to be involved on it because their backers, their sponsors are like, dude, we want to, like, that's good for us. So I do think that is, I think that's because we have the package. We have a good TV package. We are NBC based.
Podcast is great.
Yeah. And if it's not NBC based, like full NBC, it's Peacock, which is like everybody has streaming platforms. So boom, you go to Peacock, and you get it, and it's great quality. It works every time. It's exactly what you need. But I think to bring the outside in, I think you need something like that, and then hopefully that would grow it.
And it's the thing also about Supercross is, like I said earlier, it's in major cities, so you have 40 to 60,000 people coming to a race, and to me, it's just bonkers that there isn't something like that going on.
Totally, And it has, going back to Drive to Survive. I watched that with my wife. She loves the drama.
Yeah, totally.
Moto.
Yeah.
It's got drama.
Yeah.
People are, there's especially.
And I think the biggest thing is having people being comfortable enough to open up, and I think that would be the first season would be okay. Like, I think it has to be, you got to invest into it over a course of 3 years.
Yeah,
like,
3-year
we're
plan.
we're going to give this 3 years. First year is going to be okay. Second year should be a lot better. And by the third year, I feel like then because it takes you have to play a character, and I think that's sometimes tough for mechanics or suspension or engineers or whatever, riders, right? Because we're so programmed to be this specific way. But I do think it would be huge. I mean, I know it's been talked about. But nothing.
It humanizes people too in the sport. It brings it down, and that's how you get people to watch.
Filming it, getting it, editing it, and getting it built is one thing. But how do you get it in front of the eyes, right?
Yeah.
To invest the money into it. I think that's probably their biggest worry. Is like, okay, well, we film this, we shoot this, we produce it. How do we get it to live up on that main page, regardless if it's top 10 or not? How do we get it to live up there for at least 30 days to where then you'll have that following?
Yeah,
totally.
Well, one thing that is a good step in the right direction, though, too, you have to think when you're looking at the sport broadly. When you go to a race and you go to Deegan's, you go to the Yamaha, the Star tent, and the amount of kids, like, my friend's kid, Rune, he's just Deegan Army. You know, the kids, are they Deegan?
Yeah, they like Hayden, they like Cole. I mean, it's tough to ask them, right? Because they hear all the shit I say, my wife says. You know, my wife's like, dude, Hayden's cocky. He's real cocky, you know? Like, I don't like that, you know? So then they get a little bit of that, so.
With what he's doing on YouTube, though, and just that, you know, you look at Tomac's there, and who you'd think the line would be there for Tomac, but it's for the kid in the lights class, and that's got to be helping the sport just with that channel and the amount of people that
I think for sure, but I think you need somebody else too, like meaning you need the devil's advocate to him. Okay, you got him playing his character, maybe, you know, cocky, that young kid, but now you need the other person that the other fans maybe jive with him more, or a fan of him because of his personality's different than Hayden's. And I think that, you know, Bryan has done a phenomenal job with YouTube. Like, he caught on to the YouTube thing early.
Yeah.
Like, they've been in the that YouTube thing's been in the making for them since he was on a 50, you know, and, you know, good on him for noticing that, like, being able to realize that this is where the future of TV or you know, getting all your content.
Using him in the beginning, then going to the kids, and now it's more the kids. And,
you know, and I'm sure they do well off of it.
Yeah.
Okay, people, we're going to talk to you about Goodr. We're talking sunglasses, Sunny G's. Cheap, affordable, high-quality sunglasses, starting at only $25 a pair. You got a 1-year warranty and 30-day return policy. Who wants to spend $200 on a pair of sunglasses when you can spend $25? You get a whole bunch of them and lose them and still have 5 extras. That's what I like about it. They're lightweight and comfortable, 100% polarized, no slip, no bounce. They got all different types of styles and colors. They got speed shades. They got OGs. Lots of sleek looks on there. And they're designed for everyday use, or if you want to get sporty, grab some Goodrs. I like to wear mine when I'm splitboarding on the skin trail, you know, eating some granola, throwing the sunnies. You're feeling good. And because they're affordable, and if you're like me, you can lose them and just buy another pair. You don't feel bad about it. If you need a pair of sunnies, Goodr is giving Bombhole listeners free shipping. You can go to goodr.com/bombhole and use promo code bombhole for free shipping. Goodr offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Again, that's goodr.com/bombhole and use promo code bombhole for free shipping. All right, people. We're talking nicotine pouches right now. We're talking Lucy Breakers. They're 100% nicotine, no tobacco. And they got a little nug in there, a little capsule. You pop it, it's a bit of a flavor blast. I quite enjoy it. They also have a subscription plan if you just want nicotine pouches delivered right to your front door. Easy peasy. I personally like the berry citrus flavor. I go 8 milligrams on them. And I love them with a cup of coffee in the morning. I hate to say it. I love to hammer these things. So check out lucy.co and use promo code BOMBHOLE and you'll get 20% off your order. They got a 30-day refund policy if you don't like it. Again, that's lucy.co, promo code BOMBHOLE for 20% off your order. And also, one thing to know is that Lucy products are only for adults of legal age. Every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
I'm going to change gears since this is an action sports podcast and get into a question from Troy Eckert, one of the founders over at Volcom. Here we go.
Hey, Ryan. What's happening? It's Troy Eckert. Long time. So, got a question for you. When the whole Volcom thing came about, I was curious what pulled you in that direction to say yes to being sponsored by a brand and a company that really had no real roots in motocross and was mainly rooted in surfing, skating, and snowboarding. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear your answer.
Yep. So Troy produced To Be Continued. So yeah, Volcom. So I think the one thing that's kind of pigeonholed our sport was in the past, and it's better, a little bit better now, but still we have our brands, and it's only our brands inside of our sport. And I think that's also what makes it hard to grow, because we don't have a lot of outside. So when the opportunity arose to Volcom was going to step into Supercross, motocross, and obviously you kind of need to do that with a face. Bobby Nichols was my agent at the time. Had dabbled in that, that realm of action sports also with Sports Syndicate. And then we had a guy named Troy Powell also. And he was, so I believe he was a big driver of, because he rode moto, came from the surf side, but came over to the moto side and was like, okay, well, this is an untapped like market here, but also super fucking niche and really hard to get into. So when I was able to, get together with Volcom and we designed some gear, we always did helmets around it. Like, it brought the outside industry into our sport, which was huge at the time. Like, nobody's done it, in my opinion. There's been collabs. Alpenstars does a great job with collabs. Fox does collabs with different brands, but they're in there. They pop in and they pop out. Like, Volcom was what came in and was was trying to carve out a space for them. So like the gear that I got to wear, like, that was Volcom designed. Helmets also, like, that was something that was so non-traditional for our sport, which I think, from an athlete standpoint, you always want to look different and not look the same as everybody else. Because, Fox, Thor, Alpenstars, Fast House, like, here's your gear designs for 25, and that's what you wear. Yeah, some guys make some custom stuff here and there, and when they do some marketing plays around it and things like that. But this was a company, this was a brand trying to carve out a niche in our sport. Like I said, that was a tough space to get into too. So I applaud them for everything that we were able to do and do cool shit. Like, To Be Continued would have never happened, right? If it wasn't for Troy Powell and Troy Eckert and the vision of that, and Troy Eckert being producing and putting films together, and that stuff's all super, super cool. And I love that it lives. It still lives today. Especially from my kids, right? Like, they never got to see me race professional, so it's cool to have that stuff living in the cloud.
Totally.
100%. And for us, skate, snow, surf people, action sports people, like, it made you fucking cool. It made, like, not that you weren't cool, but you're like, oh, he's with Volcom. He's kind of
exactly.
like in our culture or something. There was some, it was like a direct kind of connection to like, you were almost part of our space, just wearing that gear and with the documentary and for us, like, moto's so results based, but when you look at action sports, we're all about our marquee snowboard videos, our films, and going and filming tricks and putting it all together and then premiering it. And you guys did a big premiere at Oakley, Troy said, right?
Yeah.
Was that cool?
Yeah, it was super cool. Like, I wore Oakley's once I turned, or once I went to the 450 class. I was able to wear Oakley, and they were a great backer, sponsor, and partner. And we did the premiere up there at Oakley, which is if anybody's ever been to Oakley, which I'm sure you have, it's a fucking pretty cool building.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to ask, this is a snowboard podcast. You ever ride snowboards?
Yes, we board. Yeah. The boys board. All of us do. None of us are skiers. Actually, it's funny. We moved back to Washington, and we'll go to Crystal or Stevens or whatever it was, and I had never really boarded at all, and I'm not a skateboarder at all either. If it's 2 wheels, if 4 is a fucking problem. 4 wheels is a problem. So I'm like, all right, well, and we had 2 Italian friends over from Europe, and I'm like, look, why? Because my wife grew up kind of boarding. She's decent, and then they're obviously from Europe, so they board and everything. And I'm like, look, I'm the odd man out. So I said, I get up there. I said, we rented our shit because I didn't have anything at the time, and I'm like, look, I'm just gonna take a morning class. I get up there, I'm just running this through my head, and I'm telling them, I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to hang you guys up because who fucking knows? I might be on my face every 30 seconds. So let me go just take this morning class. I get up to the counter and I say, fuck, I ain't taking the morning class. I ain't doing that. So I grab my shit. We go out there and I'm like, let's start on the fucking bunny slope, which probably wasn't the right move to do. Not steep enough. Ended up making it down. Okay. Pretty icy, shitty. I'm like, all right, well, I'm done doing that. I can't get enough speed to I keep falling over. So let's just get up. Let's go hit a green one. And so we get up, and and biggest thing even now, it's like fucking getting off the chairlift's a fucking problem sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, like I kind of have it down now, but now I'm fucking got 2 kids where we're trying to get off the lift too, you know? So typically every year we go to Mammoth and we spend 3 or 4 days up there and board. So, but literally she's like, dude, you're going to fucking struggle. You're going to fucking struggle. So she just keeps telling me, I was like, well, we'll see. So I get up there. And she goes, I don't know how you can do this like that. And I'm not good by no means, but like I was able to go down the hill. So I was stoked on that front because I wasn't thinking that I would have, because prior to that, as a kid, like 12, 13, 14, I think I've been to the mountain, call it 3 or 4 times, and it was always on skis. So like literally I had no fucking experience on a board. But yeah, so I was able to get down the mountain. So we have
half
fun.
of the battle, right?
Oh
there.
yeah, that's more than many can say.
Yeah,
you know, and I always like we'll go and like I always try to like deviate off of the groomed runs, and sometimes that's always an issue. Either it's way deeper than I thought, or it's fucking really icy, and I'm okay going one direction. I don't know. I'm goofy, so I'm trying to remember.
Goofy footer.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's major.
If I go left foot forward on anything, it's a problem.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm goofy. But yeah, the boys have picked it up decent, you know, and that's one thing. Like I know it's really tough for me right now to, like I said, do 2 things at once. Like my whole brain is just trying to figure out how to get them better on a dirt bike. So this year Mammoth has gotten skipped for our snowboard trip anyways. But I want to expose them to those different things because number one, it makes a good athlete.
Yeah, totally.
But number 2, it's something that we can go up and do, and I don't have to fucking bitch or moan about how they're doing it.
That's good.
Yeah.
And it's fun. And I like the mountains too. So like Mammoth, 6 hours for us. We jam up. We know the restaurant called Toomey's right below 8050. He always hooks us up with lift tickets, the whole thing. We stay in 8050 and we have a blast.
Killer.
I love it.
Love to hear it. That's great. All right, we're going to get into our last segment of the show here. This is called Hot Takes. You just kind of semi-rapid fire. You can elaborate if needed. But the first question we always ask is, who is your GOAT, your personal GOAT on a dirt bike?
As a kid, MC is who I always looked up to. And then also currently, like, we have a podcast together, me and RC. Like, I've not that I wasn't a big fan of RC back in the day, but now we have this. It's come full circle, and we're buddies now. And it's like, and now we have very similar thought. Now that we're buddies and we hang out and we do our podcast, it's like there's a lot of things we have that are very similar. So I would say, as a whole, RC. But as a kid, I looked up to MC when I was young. They'd come to Seattle, go to the Kingdom, watch them race Supercross, and that was our Supercross for the year, other than on TV.
Solid. What was your favorite track you ever raced?
I'm gonna say it now, Glen Helen. For the national, it takes a big set of fucking balls to go fast at that place. And it's when they do a national prep, I think it's one of the best tracks to race.
Supercross or motocross?
Well, I'll put it this way: 17 rounds of Supercross. By the time you get close to the end of it, you're disgusted with Supercross and you're ready for outdoors. And by the time outdoors is over, you're ready for fucking Supercross. I was lucky enough to be able to transition between both very easily. So I didn't say, oh, I'm a Supercross guy or I'm a motocross guy. I did both very well, so I liked both.
So you kind of got to pick one, though.
All right. I'm going to go motocross then.
There it is.
That's good.
A good answer. That's the right answer.
Yeah.
Motocross is more badass.
It's a
You're
little
going
more
faster.
Yeah, but it's a little more laid back too.
Oh
right?
yeah,
like
yeah.
so it's-
wider track.
Yeah, and the margin for error is a little bigger, right? So like from that standpoint,
Longer motos.
If you do make a mistake, it's not so fucking critical.
You gotta be.
You got
in
two
really
motos.
Good shape too.
Yep.
The heat.
Yeah.
Of the summer.
Oh, yes, but Brian, I was at one time.
That's right.
I was.
Forgot. You were. That's right.
Not anymore. So.
All right, on a dirt bike, who do you think has the best style ever?
Dude, you're gonna have to go with Jet. You know, Jet Lawrence. I think his the way he's as fast as he's able to go as easily as he does it. Technically, on the way he is on the motorcycle is very, very impressive.
Who's one of the most underrated riders or racers in your opinion?
Oof, dude, I've never been asked that question.
First, that's the bomb hole. Welcome, brother.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Underrated rider.
Never been asked about motocross the nation's Bud Creek, I think, either. Another first time.
Well, dude, I mean, there's been a ton. I mean, Austin Stroop. I mean, and underrated, I would say, like just either took a bad path or didn't execute and just fell off the face of the earth type thing. So, Stroop. I mean, Faulkner's currently racing. He was amazing amateur. And once he turned pro, he was unreal. Like, dude, there's probably more guys in that category than the ones that are great. It's probably a lot like that snowboarding too. Like,
oh yeah,
that could have been something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those two pop into my head as 250 riders right now.
Cool. Who's got the best whip?
Probably Patrick Evans right now. I mean, I know he rides a Stark, but still.
Yeah, it's fucking insane. It's like past 180.
I'm not doing that. I mean, as for a racer,
right.
Kevin Windham always had good whips, good style.
Who had a better whip, you or Dungy?
I'm gonna have to say me. I mean, I just have to say it. The right jump, I could at one time at the right jump. See, I was very jump dependent for me. Like some guys can just, I'll whip. I can throw a big nasty whip off anything. For me, it was very takeoff dependent.
Like it. Your favorite bike you ever rode in your career?
It's got to be all 3 years at PC. Yeah, the
250.
The 250. Yeah. Man, we got to remember, I only rode one brand, so it's But then currently
those are injected at the time, no?
No, carbureted.
Those are carbureted.
Yep.
Okay.
So carbureted, and then obviously I get to spend a lot of time on the Yamahas now, the 250 and the 450. Very similar to when I was pro. I've only for the last 7 years now I've been Yamaha, but the jumps the manufacturers have made since I raced has been not from a new innovations. It's back in the day. It was like for us, we went from carbureted to fuel injection, and that was a huge leap for us in our sport. But since fuel injection, we really haven't had anything change. So call it 2014, my last year, to current. Bikes are similar from a technical standpoint. Nothing majorly new on them. They've just gotten dramatically better. They've fine-tuned them very, very well.
All right, hypothetical. You got your brand new, your suspension's dialed, Yamaha 250F. You got your Pro Circuit 250F. If you could pick one, you're on the gate. You got to race it. Which one's faster? Which one's better?
I'm going to have to probably say current bike. Yeah. That's been a topic, like getting out an old bike, one of my PC bikes and running it against a current like race bike to see what the difference is. Mm-hmm. I know we were on another level back in 06, 07, and 08, but compared to what they're on now, it's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, dream sponsor, anything in the world, doesn't have to be dirt bike related.
OnlyFans? I don't know. When I was racing, probably, I think there's a space, and even currently, like for Bass Pro Shops of the world and Cabela's, and I know Cabela's Bass Pro shops have our conglomerate now, but something outside like that I think I still am. I love going to Bass Pro Shop. It's
so you're saying you're sponsored by Bass Pro Shop. You walk in, take whatever you want off the
Yeah.
Yeah, or currently like, hey, we want to take you on this experience, go moose hunting, or we want to take you to this fucking. We'll fly you in on a float plane, and you get to fish this pond that gets fished once a year, and you know,
really
and
good.
It's a fucking
That's a
good.
good
That
one.
might be one of my
Yeah,
favorite
it's
answers.
one of our best ones,
You
for
did
sure.
good on this one, Ryan.
you know,
People
and
usually
then
flop on
bring
this.
bring a case of beer and maybe a joint or two, and you just fucking watch the sun and set and fucking fish.
Wow. Does Bass Pro Shops do that? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
About to.
maybe
It's part of the
maybe one
guided-
of their marketing guys will see this bomb hole.
Yes.
We
There
are
you go.
known to have Bass Pro Shop
a
marketing
lot
guys
of
watching this.
lot
So,
of subscribers from Bass
I met
Pro
the
Shops.
owner like 4 years ago. I was at a NASCAR race, and we're sitting in a terminal getting ready to fly out. And I had a red cinema camera, you know? And he's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's a film camera." And he's like, "No way." And his name's Johnny. And he started looking at it. And I'm like, "You know, the guy that started Oakley did this?" And he's like, "I need one of those." And I was like,
Yeah, you do.
Go buy one." And I don't know if he did or not, but
It's going to cost you $60K.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'll tell you, biz has got to be good for them. The amount of Bass Pro Shops hats I see
everywhere.
That thing is, they're doing okay
Yeah.
with just
I
with
think
their
so.
hats alone.
I think so.
Yeah, they're doing good. Yeah, we get some other answers, like we get Home Depot, which I think is a good
That's a
one.
big one,
What else?
Airlines.
Yeah, a lot of
It's
people
common
are like,
one.
"Oh, Delta, I can fly wherever I want," or
Not if it ain't private, I don't want to be sponsored by.
yeah, private airline.
fair.
That's it. Yeah,
You know, like I just flew commercial my whole life. It's getting worse. Sucks.
when you were winning everything,
Yeah.
you were flying commercial.
yeah, it doesn't. You can't pencil. It doesn't justify flying private. You know, like shit. You can buy and even then so this is one of those things I would change. Is I would have flown first class everywhere. Now at 30, going to be 37, I would have flown first class everywhere. We flew coach everywhere.
You're flying back. You just come off the
Yes.
podium. You get a 100,000 whatever win bonus.
Yep.
And you're sitting 38D next to the fucking toilet. After your
100%.
television?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Oh man.
Yeah.
insane.
Now maybe it's a smart move, right? Like I did retire at 26, so that's kind of cool
worked
too. You know, it's hard to argue. Like, was the decision good or bad? But I think that would have made me maybe a little happier in the end.
Quality of life.
Okay, last question in hot takes. Worst trend, maybe just in motocross. What do you got, or in your culture of your sport?
I think currently the really fucking dirty mullets. Like I like the what is it? Like the fashion-y kind of mullet, you know?
Silk's kind of got one of those.
It's a little bit.
It's like
yeah,
a bowl
but I'm
cut
talking
mullet.
like
Bowl
the
cut
ones that
mullet.
are like flat top, Joe Dirt style.
Yeah.
Like those run around. Those
Especially
are running,
in the mini Moto Dad scene,
Yeah.
you're seeing a lot of those.
yeah, so I think that's a bad trend.
Okay.
That's a bad trend. Yeah. It doesn't look good on anybody.
You think is AP to blame for that, or is he?
AP, he could do something with his hair. His hair, yeah. I mean,
lot of
I know
people
that
are-
I know got a big following. The
Yeah.
cowboy hat's got a big following. So does his hair. I know he's trying to probably prolong what's happening. I've seen it pop the head off. It might be
Yeah.
going bald.
Oh
Yeah.
shit! Okay,
A little bit, so maybe that's par for the course of why he's gonna run it as long as he can and say he's got hair. But yeah,
All right. What is your current daily driver? We always ask people their snowboard setup. We're gonna ask you your moto setup.
I have a 2015 Facebook Marketplace Sprinter van that I bought.
Well, I mean, moto dirt bike setup. But
Dirt bikes,
yeah,
YZ450.
yes, just
Or,
bone stock. What are you doing for
yep.
suspension?
It's bone stock. I actually just sent it in to get done for Mammoth.
Really?
Because I did race it
Who's
3
doing it?
weeks ago, pro circuit.
Okay.
I raced it 3 weeks ago, and Kyle, our mechanic, like I said, worked for Chase, so he's been on factory teams. He's like, I need to take your bike and pull that suspension off. I'm like, why,
ECU?
dude? It feels pretty fucking good. He goes, it is so soft for you. You're gonna crash. So
Coming down the hill with those whoops.
yeah,
like, just
yeah,
like-
exactly. No, I'm talking literally. That's my point is what I was saying about the evolution of kind of the bikes. 13, 14 Kawasaki 450, cut the subframe, shorten the shock shaft. Like we had to do a bunch of shit to make it even rideable for me anyways. Current model of my YZ 450 or 250, you can uncrate it and I can ride it as it was stock grips, stock bars, stock everything. And what I do when I get them is I just throw a pair of Renthal bars on them, grips that I like, and obviously a pipe. And really that's for Hook and Mitch up from a promotional standpoint. Like they're fucking so good out of the box. You really don't need to do anything. So all these people that are just throwing all these parts at them and, a lot of it's just all bling, right? Like, it's all for the look standpoint. And same with the pipe too. Like actually the stock pipe on the YZ 450 and 250F is really, really good, but it doesn't sound as good, doesn't look as good. It's not titanium.
Here's the thing. You got to realize, because this is coming from a guy, C-class guy, is bolting on any part he can find onto his bike. Okay?
Exactly. This is going to help. This is worth half a second.
It's not that I need to work on my corner speed. It's that I need forks from Enzo. That's going to solve all my problems. It has nothing to do.
And
they're anodized.
Yeah.
They're black. They're exactly.
Hey,
look good,
feel good,
ride good.
Yeah.
That's it. I love buying parts. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna do it. This is gonna help me get 7th place.
And then so obviously 8-year-old boys, right? They're like, dude, look at this. It's got a red throttle housing and this and that. And I'm like, dude, I said, I'm sorry. These are my fucking bikes. You ride them. So
they're on lease.
If I don't like the part, it doesn't go on the bike. And that goes along with stickers too. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm taking some of the wind out of their sails.
But they need it. It's good in the long run. How you like being a podcaster with RC?
Yeah, it's good. It's it's one of the things. Yeah, like in my position, coming off of retiring and living that schedule and that lifestyle, I would say call it, if you have a phobia of anything, it's like kind of commitment issues, and a lot of that is getting myself into a position and then like saying taking on something, right, and then either having to back out or what. I hate making that phone call and say, hey, I can't make it, or hey, it ain't working out. I had an opportunity to do Race Day Live as the full gig. I did 3 of them. What was it, 2 years ago-ish, I think. The last 3 SMX rounds, and then they wanted to bring me on for the full gig for Race Day Live, which is flying in Thursdays, meetings Friday, and then you announce basically for 8.5, 9 hours on Race Day Live. Money wasn't nowhere. The money was so low, I didn't even think about it, but I threw him a number that I thought it'd be worth my time. And I was like, look, if you want me to go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I get home Sunday morning, so basically 4 days, like my time's worth $10,000 a weekend. And they're like, oh, dude, we don't have the budget for that. I look back at that. This was right before the boys were, like, before Gage said, hey, I quit baseball. I'll do flag, but I want to race. And I said, okay, well, if you want to race, shit gets real now. Sure got real on all fronts. But if I would have committed and they would have said, okay, no problem, $10,000, I would have been a hurting unit after, because I would have committed to 18 weekends straight almost. I think, they do 17 rounds in 18 weekends is what it is. So I would have committed to doing that, and then I would have looked like a dick because then I either bailed on them or I wouldn't have bailed on them, and then I would have been fucking miserable. And then we wouldn't be racing like we have been the last 6 months.
And the podcast is a much less commitment as well.
So back to the podcast. So it keeps me very involved. The boys, we watch it every weekend. So, I mean, why not talk about it on Monday? And it's an hour and 15 minutes. NBC, Aaron, our producer, like basically I do what I did here, show up and I sit down in my seat in my trophy room and we bang it out. So, I enjoy it. It's cool. I think, like I love what Gypsy does. What Pulp does is cool too. Long form's sick. Also, we're short. We'll see where it ends up going. Maybe in the future if we could have a little more freedom. And what I mean by freedom is there's some I bounce off the guardrails in my opinion for the current situation being backed by NBC and NBC platform and all of that, right? Very corporate. So, but it's got us our start, and it doesn't really cost us anything at all. It's all backed by them, so that's super cool. And we just show up and we do it. So I enjoy it.
Cool, love to see it. What is next for RV2?
Next for me is honestly, it's trying to figure out how to make the kids faster. I mean, that's kind of my whole goal right now, and trying to figure out if we're gonna. We just finished a massive remodel on an amazing house in Newport. I would have never thought, if you had asked me 2 years ago if we would be this involved in amateur racing, I would have said, nah, probably not. I'll have them race, I'll have them ride, but I would have said it's up to them, right? And that's the same thing. I never pushed them. I would always bring them riding when they asked, but it was only when they asked to go ride. It's a lot of fucking work, so I'm not doing it if you don't want to go. Now it's a thing I kind of got them. Hey, you don't want to ride? Yeah, we're going riding. You only get Tuesdays to ride, bud. So we're going riding. So, trying to figure out if we're gonna move, and pursue this. Everybody's doing it. There's kids that are homeschooled at 8 that are at training facility. This whole thing. I don't think that's necessarily the right thing, but I need to give them at least 50% of what these kids are doing. So yeah, amateur racing. That's the beauty of kind of where I sit right now is other than Title 24 and some obligations with Yamaha, I'm just a full mini dad.
Just a lot of advice on the gate is what's going on there.
Yeah, too much,
I guess.
too much advice, too much talking.
Amazing. Well, I think we did it, boys.
Yeah.
Did you have fun, Knox?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And
thanks for coming on.
My goal is to get him up in Mammoth in at least a little bit of shape so he can.
Oh, you're his new Aldon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Wow. Yeah, we'll get him around.
You know what I heard when I was there last time? A bunch of people were taking Viagra to get their blood thin. I shit you not. People were taking Viagra because supposedly it makes your blood pump up or whatever, or obviously in your crotch region. But there was people that were taking Viagra pills, so that's something you might want to check that out.
I might have to try that.
He's like, I'd rather do that than go ride around.
Yeah, you don't have to work out at all.
5 o'clock, 5 p.m. Before I go to sleep, and then my old lady will be happy.
Yeah, that's what apparently literally for racing. So yeah,
really.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's banned on the WADA list.
Yeah. WADA is going to be out there testing it.
Yeah,
I heard they're going to be definitely testing.
Big out there.
Yeah, that'll be huge.
Performance enhancing.
Yeah, well, have fun in Mammoth. Get a good start.
I know.
That's the key. First gear.
I know.
Spin the tire a little bit on the concrete.
I know. I can't remember if I started second or first last year.
I'm telling you. I mean, C class.
Yeah.
First gear. Way out in front. All right. 350. Cool. I think we did it. Silk, did you have a fun show?
Yeah, great show. I think we did it too.
Did you have a favorite moment from the show?
Oh, fuck, dude. There's a lot of good shit. I like just starting off talking about your kids and how they think you're a fucking idiot. That's so funny. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's a good show.
I know I did get a text while sitting here, and it said from Gage, and I don't know why or what, but he said, "Are you dumb?" He goes, and I said, "Why?" I said, "What? Why am I dumb?" He goes, "I was talking into my watch."
That's great.
Amazing. All right. Well, since you're a podcaster, Ryan, why don't you do the sign off for us? We usually, say, hey, thanks sponsors, thanks people listening. Throw a bow on the show. Take us out of the show.
Well, what do we have this run through the wall? Is that what we are?
Oh yeah. You ever hit a salt? Do you have any interest?
I guess I'll try one.
Yeah, let's do that. That's what we need.
One, yeah.
Knox, you ever hit one?
Yeah.
Oh, you have.
Yeah.
You interested in hitting another?
I'm gonna let him go first.
All right. Yeah, just pinch the middle of it. You got to pinch it, and then just give it a little. There it is.
Oh fuck.
I mean, you might be able to run back to the hotel now. That'd be good.
Do you think that's going to help you at the start gate?
Yeah, it'll help you.
Maybe at 8,500 feet.
Yeah, it will.
I might need some of that. Maybe title sponsor for us, Knox.
Yeah, there you go.
Run through the wall.
Yeah, we'll get some up in.
We got some. We'll send you home with some. We got you guys dialed in on that.
There you go.
All right,
Yeah, that was good.
Take us out of the show. I mean, there's too many. The sponsors. There's a lot to list. I don't even know.
Yeah, whatever you want to say. Don't worry about
the
it.
action.
Well, yeah, no. Well, thanks for listening to the Bomb Hole, guys. It was good to come on and talk different. And it's always good for me to come on to different podcasts or different interviews and being interviewed or doing a podcast from somebody a different angle from you guys that don't necessarily didn't grow up in this sport, right? Different questions. I get to elaborate different ways. So that's awesome. So thank you for that. Pub Beer Lager right here, 10 Barrel Brewing Co. Boom, right there. Monster, which is mine. But no, thanks for having us on and run through the wall. Get you some. I don't know, GNC. You at GNC on those?
Bombhole.com, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll get there eventually.
All right. That's it. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah.
Good show.
Thank you, guys.